The work session for today is called to order. I want to ask Marie Manning if she would lead us in prayer.
Let's bow our heads. Now, Father, how grateful we are that we can be a part of your work in this state. I just pray that you might give us as board members the information we need. Give us, first of all, the direction we need to go, and help us to do what is best for all the students in this state, for all the teachers in this state, the support workers, all that are affiliated with education. We thank you for this group at the department who work so hard to be prepared to lead in our work sessions. And we just pray that you might be with them as they continue that work. Be with our nation as we struggle. I just ask, Lord, that you be with those groups that are in LA. And I pray that you might give guidance to the individuals that are there. Be with us, we pray. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Ms. Manning. We're so happy to have with us A+ Student Voices. We want to give them an opportunity to come and introduce themselves. The leaders, if you all want to just kind of facilitate that process, introduce yourselves, and then we'll look at the
Just follow up.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
While they're walking, I'm Mark Dixon, President of A+ Education Partnership. This is Keenan Carter, our Program Director for A+ Student Voices team. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Dr. Tessa, to the board. We're excited to present to you the Student Voices team. Student Voices team is a statewide advocacy and leadership initiative. We bring together students from across the state to talk about education policy, and again, we believe that whenever education decisions are being made, that our students deserve to have a voice there. So they work on a year-long advocacy project as well as doing other things in order to address and survey students regarding issues that are impacting the students in their school, in the communities, and then they come back, analyze that data, and then in turn create student-centered recommendations that they recommend to the state legislature and also to the school board on recommendations they believe will address some of those issues. And so I'll allow them to introduce themselves and also talk about the priorities that they selected for this year.
All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Aaliyah Greenholm. I just graduated. I'm from Danville, Alabama. And I was a part of the mental health section of our survey.
Hi, I'm Dylan. I'm from Mobile County, Davidson High School, and I was also on the mental health part of our group.
Hi, I'm Carter Norn-Hentz. I'm from Clay County. I was on the school curriculum part of our group. I attend Clay Central.
Hey, I'm Caleb Johnston, and similar to Carter, I was also working on the school curriculum segment of the survey, and I went to Lamp High School and now go to Mountain Brook High School.
My name is Micaiah McDaniel. I am from Mobile County, and I am a part of the school funding aspect of our group.
Hello everyone, my name is Howard Works. I attend Valley Cross Academy. I live here in Montgomery, and I was on the school funding part of the survey.
Hi everyone, my name is Annie Ledvina, and I go to the Jefferson County Virtual School in Jefferson County, and I was part of the mental health portion of our survey.
Hello, my name is Trinity Watts-Knuckles. I'm from Montgomery, and I was a part of the mental health part of the project.
Well, we're so happy to have y'all. Do y'all have any questions you want to ask us?
I have a question. Do you have any advice for students like us, or just anyone that is looking into the educational policy aspects, how to get into it, and what are some core values to hold when working in it?
Oh, that's a good question.
Educational policy.
Yes, ma'am.
Teach.
Right.
I have had, so I let board members answer, but I've had several college students, not high school students, through years ask me, I want to work in education policy. What is the thing you think I should do? I bet I've had 50. And I said, teach before you build policy. And I believe the state superintendent, like, it would be really hard to do this job if you had never actually been in a classroom and And because and that's been a long time now. I've not been in the classroom in 25 years, but I still try to think about when we make decisions around this table, and I see Mrs. Ziegler nodding her head. I mean, I know she does the same. We try to think about, now if I were that 23-year-old teacher again, right? What would this feel like? Sometimes you still make the same decision, and that 23-year-old teacher doesn't understand it because you know other things. But then you have to think about, well, how do I present it? But sometimes, in my mind, it has changed recommendations, and I've got several former teachers here. It's changed recommendations I've made to go back and think about, what would this be like? Oh, you know what? If I were a teacher again, this would not make any sense. We need to rethink it. And then the experience you have as a student, because some of the same things, thinking about, what is that experience going to be like for the student? We say this, what would it, and I'll give you a perfect example, and I won't be quiet. But we've changed a lot of graduation requirements here around this table. And so we talk sometimes about, when do we want those to happen? Well, if you're 16 and you're going into your junior year and we change your requirements immediately, then that can be really difficult for you. And then this young man changed high schools. So he's already got the change in high schools and communities, and now if we say, oh, we're going to change what courses are required to graduate, so what's that runway need to look like so that we, and this board last year said, you know what, we need to make this one new requirement. We need to make it effective for upcoming 8th graders so we can let parents know this is going to be a new requirement. So I think those experiences, but I would say you can teach in a classroom a few years, it will help. Even if it's just a couple of years and then going to something else.
I took the path of volunteering in my local schools, which gave me so much information, not just as a parent, but as somebody who cared about my community. So I did something just as simple as 20 years ago, I started volunteering to read in a kindergarten classroom, so that I could assist other students in learning to read. And from there, someone asked me to serve on PTA, and from there, someone asked me would I volunteer in another role, and I just kept going, and 20 years later, I'm here. So not a former educator, but somebody who loves serving children and my community. So, if teaching is not your path, that's okay too, because Dr. Long's a physician and hasn't been in the classroom, so everybody can choose their path to get into policy.
And I took a different path of an educator, because I've been a teacher, principal, superintendent, and now I'm in higher education. So those experiences now are allowing me to see things totally different. So experience saves a lot, even though it came from her as being a volunteer. You can see experience, has brought that into it. And then research as time goes on, because things have changed.
I realize that there's nothing more certain is trite than change. If you think you're going to be a change agent, the people behind you are going to look at you as an old fogey, and why aren't you willing to change differently? Because every change usually is a predicate for future change. And the reality is, those people that were before you that made the system as it is had the same integrity and intention as you might have. So don't think because you perceive a change is needed that the people who made those decisions before didn't do it with integrity and a sense of obligation.
And I have to just say, take any opportunity or any door that opens, because sometimes you go, do I really want to go through that door? But you never know, as I say, what's on the other side. And that doesn't mean that has to be, as Dr. Mackey said, your road forward. It could be, you learn a lot from sometimes going down the wrong road, as long as it's, as long as it's legal. But anyhow, just remember that sometimes an opportunity to do different things might not be in your little area of comfort. That's usually your best time to learn and see what's going on. And as we said, I don't remember who said about talking about you as a teacher, as long as you always remember, is it in the best interest of our students then we're on the right track. And that's what we always ask ourselves. They are our most important client, shall we say. So anyhow, I want to applaud y'all for your path forward, whatever it may be. And are any of you headed to the universities? All right, let's start at the end and please tell us where you're going to go, because we know some of the Ole Miss people are here, I think.
I plan to attend the University of North Alabama.
Okay.
This upcoming semester, I will be at John Cabot University in Rome, Italy.
Really?
Wow.
Oh.
You got an extra room?
Yes, sir.
University of Alabama, Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
I will be attending Hokkaido University in Japan.
Oh, excellent. Wow. No.
I think those are all our seniors.
Well, I'm sure you don't forget those applications and get those scholarships and go.
Thank you all very much for coming. Your work for participating. A+ is a great program. We appreciate all you do. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us. We appreciate it.
And I have a question for you, and especially the mental health issue that you all worked on. What do you find to be most detrimental to the mental health of young folks?
Have you done the survey yet? Have you done the
Yes.
survey back?
Yes.
Yeah. Maybe what your survey said.
I think one thing that a lot of students struggle with is the pressure to know exactly what they're going to do out of college. And I know that a lot of career professionals come into my schools, teachers, and not really teachers, but I guess career professionals, and they say, oh, you need to know exactly what you're going to do before you go to college. Make sure you don't change majors, because you want to be ahead, you don't want to fall behind. And I think that puts an immense amount of pressure on 16, 17, 18-year-olds where they aren't able to explore and be creative and, find what they're really passionate about. And I think we should start allowing students to explore.
Bingo.
I would say that when a curriculum is rigorous, but it crosses the line, and it goes from rigorous to just plain stressful, and you start to miss things because of the workload is so stressful. And now you're up to 3 o'clock writing an essay on a book you barely read because you're trying to focus on another math and reading at the same time. So just how to manage your workload, even as a high school student, because sometimes we focus strictly on career and colleges, but moving from middle school to high school, when high school is a bit more rigorous and you haven't seen the material, just the workload.
Especially from our survey, we see a lot of students voice stress and chronic feelings of being burnt out, and they also express lots of lack of guidance and how to manage that. So that was a big issue that we saw across in our survey. And additionally, the lack of output with counselor resources, and especially counselor resources trained specifically in mental health issues, is a lack that many students mentioned in our survey that they simply don't know of or isn't there. And that was a big thing.
So, I'm sorry, so you said that it might be there, but they were unaware, is that what you
Yes.
said? Okay, thank you.
I also think a lot of students have different learning techniques. Some are visual learners, auditory learners, very different kinds. And I think if we taught things in more diverse way instead of just lecture-based, and we did things through video or through making our own videos, really understanding the curriculum instead of just trying to get through assignments, because I love learning, but I get so focused on trying to get enough classes in so I can get into college or trying to finish all my homework that I don't really understand what I'm learning.
Very interesting.
Bouncing off of what Dylan said, the state legislature a while ago passed a bill that said that there was a mental health coordinator for each district, and that was a great step. However, sometimes the mental health coordinators, at least in my county, have problems connecting people to resources even when they are there.
And mental health help is still stigmatized. We're just getting to a place where we can start to talk about it. So it's still a bit hard to talk about, to admit that you're struggling with something. It's still big, even as students. I'm sorry.
I'd also like to add on to this, because this is kind of a separate thing that is very impactful for this. COVID changed a lot of mindsets, especially for young people, where now, seeing everything happening in the world and just being shut down and shut away from all your classmates and people, it feels almost like it's not worth it. Like almost like it's not, putting all this work in won't give me the advantage I think it would. So, what's the point? That's what I've seen a lot of people do. It's like, oh, school doesn't matter that much to me because it's not going to work out anyway. Like, I'm doomed from the start, kind of. And that's a big thing heading into education. On top of all of the stress and everything that people mentioned, just these impending sense of doom from students, it just crashes down.
That's pretty descriptive, but kind of going off of that, it's going to be hard to follow that up. But in curriculum, one of the main things we were talking about, or one of the main things students kind of selected in the survey we conducted, was that a lot of the people don't believe that the classes do train them for real world scenarios, like tax filing. I discussed that with Howard, or just real world scenarios where you could apply these real life skills that could set you up for success outside of college as well. So on top of that, you might be staying up till 3 at night, doing the essay on the paper you barely read. But at the end of the day, a lot of the time students feel like, okay, well, even if I do get to college, then what? Am I going to be prepared outside of college? Once I make that jump, where am I going to land? And a lot of kids don't know, and so I feel like that adds a lot of anxiety to their workload already.
And skills that
I'm sorry. I have to say that I don't know who said it, where they thought you should already know where you're going when you're in high school. Well, I think part of the going away to school and experiencing is being free enough to investigate and to see where you might end up, because if you get on a path too early, that might not be your path that you wish, not that you can't change, but I don't like being locked into anything. So again, you never know when that door is going to be open, but I sort of challenge that aspect, that I think you should figure out and realize there's many different avenues, but don't lock yourself in too soon.
That was great.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
But just the skills that were missed for the people who were in elementary school or middle school, when we went virtual for COVID, it kind of put us on a disadvantage so much that we started to lack the skills that should have been our foundation before we went to pre-algebra or algebra 1. So when we got into that class, we were so behind, that added to our pressure and that feeling of doom when we were moving on, because now you have kids who don't know multiplication tables, who are trying to learn pre-algebra when numbers are becoming letters. So it was just, even for me, because I had to go back for a second and was like, okay, this is where we're at, and this is what I missed, let me go back. So it's just, it adds to the pressure. And COVID was a lot.
Yes. And I would say listen to, you're doing a great job to each other, listen to your other folks around you. Yeah. Now that's a good thing here. So as Ms. West pointed out, so I said teach, that came first to mind. What a great, though, she did not go through the teaching path, but obviously is committed to her life to public education policy. She volunteered in a school to start. And so that's one thing about these 8 people around this table. They listen to each other, and they come from different places. They've done different things. We've all had kids that have done different kinds of things. And then listening to people like you. We're fortunate that I think last month we had a group of students in too. And so we have some students who are in town for whatever, and so we get to hear from them. I will say this too, just a little bit of a caveat later in my report. So the legislature this year created a tele-mental health program for middle school and high school students that will be rolling out next year, and that doesn't start till after, probably in 2026, but that is something the legislature created and asked us as a department to lead, so we're working through what that would look like right now, but that'd be an opportunity maybe to take some pressure off of those mental health coordinators and all, to offer some tele-mental health services for students, and so we're excited about that. It'll be kind of a small thing now as we start, but
that's great. We talked about with Representative Ainsler.
That's good.
That's great.
Well, we want to thank you all for coming. I look forward to spending the afternoon with them.
Thank you.
It's going to be quite interesting, but we just thank you for sharing your insight and definitely know that we appreciate what you're doing. You do have a voice.
Yes.
Make your voice count. Thank you. See
Thank
you all a
you.
little bit
Thank
later.
Thank you.
I missed the beginning, so they're headed somewhere else now?
They are.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for doing that. Let's see.
I always love that.
Absolutely.
Oakwood, I think, is the first.
The first item on the agenda is a resolution to approve the educator preparation program for Oakwood University, followed by Miles College.
Hi, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Once again, we conducting more business. As always, it's a pleasure going to each of these institutions. So this morning, we are blessed to have Oakwood with us. We have Dr. Wood and Dr. Nolan, so I'm going to ask them to come to the table. You have at your table a folder which provides some brief statistics and facts about Oakwood, and so they'll be glad to tell you a little more and to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Morning. I'm Derek Wood from Oakwood University, and we are a HBCU religious-based Seventh-day and we have our EPP has 5 programs: English language arts secondary, math, social studies, elementary education, and religious education. Those are the programs that we have. As with most EPPs, we understand that the enrollment in education or people opting to become teachers continues to decline across the board, across the state and across the nation. And our efforts are to bring more teachers in. Now, I'm the current chair of the department, but in the interest of continuous improvement, I'm handing it off to my friend here, Dr. Golden, and I let her see a few words.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I am Courtney Golden. It's a privilege to be here, and my current role until July 1, I'm Service Certification Officer, Field Experience Coordinator, and I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to be a part of the university. As he said, we are the only Adventist HBCU university in the world. And with that, we do have some challenges with our enrollment, and so we're working towards increasing our enrollment. We have a work to do, and we understand we have our boots on the ground, and we plan on improving that. So.
I would comment, I'm your state school board member, I'm Wayne Reynolds, and there's nothing that brings greater impact in the greater Huntsville area and diversity from every country and all the people that come in to our community than Oakwood. And I've been on your campus many times, and I know the work you do, and you do a great job at keeping the costs down and providing a service to many students who would never get the opportunity. And your religious affiliation is certainly significant in drawing students to come from across the United States and across the world too. You might want to comment about your broader scope of student base, which is probably greater than many universities your size ever.
Yeah, we have students from around 37 countries that come to Oakwood. They come from the Middle East, from Africa, from United Kingdom, Canada, the islands, and all over the world. Yeah. And they contribute. And many of them, when they complete, they remain in the United States and contribute to the nation.
It's impressive to go out to the school and visit and see what exists in North Huntsville. It's amazing.
Yes.
The amount of work you do is certainly significant. I have been there enough and appreciate what you contribute to education and our society as a whole. Thank you very much.
With the number of graduates that you have, I know it's a small number of those that you have enrolled, and you said you're focusing on recruiting. Do you have a goal in mind of where you'd like the program to be in the next 4 to 8 years?
Okay, so yes, we have a goal in mind as far as growing or improving our numbers. One thing that we're doing to improve our numbers is something called an Aspiring Teacher Club that we use. We're marketing our academies across the Southern Union, the state of Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, Florida, and we are bringing education programs within the academies, teaching them how to be teachers, giving them the opportunity to tutor, to earn scholarships for academy funds, as well as money for scholarships. So going back to that goal, because the academies are smaller, we've looked at increasing the amount of students that are enrolling in those programs. So like we started out with 5, and so if it's 5, we want to double it the next year to 10, or to move forward, move to the next extra 5. Or we're looking at it that way within all of those academies, just trying to increase those programs as well. And as far as we partner with our athletic partnership, and we're looking at how we increase those from number to number. We have, let's see, softball, I think we brought in, per se, it was like 13. And I think with the next year, what was our number goal? I don't know if we wanted to do that by 10 or so, something like that. But we're looking at the numbers and trying to move them forward from year to year. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you.
May I ask, are you going out into the community, to the high schools and all that to sort of showcase? So you are doing, is that part of your goal to improve your numbers?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you going beyond the state of Alabama, or are you sort of focusing right now just meaning going to the different high schools around your area, just Huntsville, and then will you sort of make that a bigger loop? I'm not saying it very well, but.
No, I understand. So as far as public schools, yes, in Alabama, but as far as Adventist schools, we go beyond the state of Alabama.
You did, okay.
Yes, we go to Tennessee, we
As
go
a
to.
parochial school, you're an international school.
Right, exactly.
So, gotcha. Thank you. I didn't understand that. Thank you for clarifying that.
Oakwood overall enrollment, what's the size of the university?
About 1,300.
About 1,300.
But your graduation rate is very high.
Yeah.
Your students don't have you have a very low dropout rate because of the way students, the reason they come to Oakwood and the support they get, people ask about mental health and other support services. The parochial aspect of the school is very strong.
Yeah.
And the impact is strong in the community because of that factor. There's a very unique bond that those students share with each other and share with the community as well.
Yes.
How many of your students are able to get tuition assistance?
Tuition
Assistance.
assistance overall or in the program?
Overall.
Tuition assistance, how many, she's looking for a number of how many can receive.
Because I looked at your tuition
assistance.
and it seems a bit, it's pretty high, but if you have good tuition assistance.
Yes, the finance department at Oakwood, they go through everything that they can go through to try to finance those students. And we have the, but there is a group that from which a lot of them get scholarships to pursue their education at Oakwood.
Yeah, So we don't have the exact number on hand, but we recognize that there are several students that receive a lot of assistance.
Would it be 50% of your students?
What would you say? He said 50%.
More.
I would say more
Yeah.
than 50%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And or recruits for sports. They get
Yes, they get scholarships as well. And
Okay.
we have softball, baseball, volleyball, basketball, and so they receive
Athletic.
scholarship after.
The denomination supports many of those students from those places. I speak for you.
Yeah.
Probably been around there more than you have. But the denomination supports a lot of their students as they come in for transportation and a lot of issues. Their published tuition is a little deceptive because
Okay.
that's supported by, that's part of being a parochial school.
Right.
I don't mean to answer.
No,
Yes, for conferences, the church conferences support the students that come from those conferences.
Did you want to add anything?
No, I just want to say during the visit, you know, they have some very unique partnerships which places Oakwood at a different location for their candidates to be able to be exposed to a number of different experiences. And also, I think one of the board members asked about their recruitment initiatives. One other thing that they talked about when we were there as well is they have a new course that everyone at the institution will be taking. So those individuals, like the high school students we're talking about a minute ago, that may not know what they want to major in college, get a bit of exposure to the College of Education, and it then becomes an option as a major just for those that are still considering what they would like to major in college.
Oh, no, that's good. That's good. Very good.
And you'll note they are all Class B board members, so that you have a list. These are all Class B, so that means bachelor's degree programs that you're looking to approve. And this would be approval, so that means they've gone through the review process. Dr. Hampton and her crew have done the site visit and are recommending you approve these programs, and then they're 7 years, isn't that right?
Correct. They just received their letter from CAPE Accreditation Council, and they are fully accredited by CAPE. And so that is great.
And by the way, congratulations to Oakwood on that and others, because we got notice just since our last board meeting that all of our education preparation programs in the state, public and private, are now CAPE accredited, and that was something the board started in maybe 2019, a push for we want all of our institutions to be accredited. And of course, it's a long haul to do it, and it's fairly expensive, but all the institutions have now completed that process that you asked them to do. And Oakwood's one of the most recent. Congratulations.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
At this time, we'll have Miles College.
All right, so I'm bringing to the table now Dr. Kirkland, and if I just may, before I turn it over to Dr. Kirkland, just after what Dr. Mackey said, I did want to let the board know we had 12 institutions this past year to undergo CAPE accreditation visits, so it's been a very, very busy CAPE time. And yes, so no institutions are on probation throughout the state now, none with stipulations. We are the only state right now that has full accreditation with all institutions, with none of them on stipulation or probation. So very proud of Alabama UPPs and the extensive work that they have done and the help that they are doing with each other to ensure that all are successful. So very glad for that. So moving forward, we have Dr. Kirkland here today. We had a visit as well with Miles College. Once again, just like Oakwood, Miles is fully accredited as well. And we had a wonderful visit there as well. So without further ado, Dr. Kirkland, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, good morning. Good morning. Or maybe no, still good morning. As you know, Dr. Richardson is one of our faculty members, and she's the Dean of General Studies there. She has been a great resource. I've only been there a year, but we have worked really hard in our early childhood, elementary, and secondary programs, and then we also have a child development program that is non-certification. But we have really worked to try to revise and change the way the program or the way the courses are offered. Also, we've looked at our field experiences and our internships. And what we're trying to do is block courses and field experiences so that we can establish some communities of practice with our students. And we feel like that will be a good retention tool. When you lose half of your students between freshman and sophomore year, we know that we've got to look at some ways to really better support these students. The nice thing that I've learned in working with the faculty there is that they're very relationship driven. And so that really is helpful in retaining our students also, because students want to know that there's someone they can call that's going to help them find out or solve the problem that they might have. So we are under the leadership of President Bobby Knight and Provost Tanya Perry, and they're an incredible leadership team. And I think that that's part of the reason that we've really made some strides as far as enrollment goes and in graduating students. And we're still looking, of course, and working on new ways to support our students, especially with testing, because that seems to be a barrier for many of them. And so we really want to work with them on that. So it's been a great experience at Miles. It's a great college of students who really want to be great teachers. And I asked to be the internship supervisor when I came in. I said, unless I know the product we're putting out there, I don't really know where the gaps are. Well, that's been the best thing I ever did. And so I've supervised all of our students so far, and they're just incredible what they're doing. And I have grandchildren in the public school system, so I want great teachers out there. So anyway, it's been a great work with them, and we're continuing that work. The Alabama Literacy Act and the Numeracy Act, both, we're revising all of our syllabi, and of course we have the 4 new syllabi for the Numeracy Act, but we're also providing professional development for the Numeracy Act through the Office of Math Improvement, through AMSTI. We're sending faculty to the National Council for Teachers of Mathematics next week in Chicago, and so we're trying to make sure that we're ready to go in the fall with those new syllabi and courses.
Any questions?
Overall enrollment, when you talk about elementary ed, early childhood, and child development.
Yes, okay, in child development we have about 80 students, but in our certification program right now, in the teacher education program, we have about 25 who have actually qualified to come into the teacher education program. That is an increase of about 30% from the previous year. We've graduated 9 certified students this year, which is more than double for the past 3 years. So we're just slowly, steadily moving up and hopefully providing the support that they need to be certified. Our biggest barrier, though, again, is the testing aspect.
And I'm about to say, when you say certified, those are the ones who pass all coursework.
That's right.
If they're elementary, the math, science, and social studies part of the practice, and the foundations of reading, and EdTPA. So all of those hurdles have to be covered in order to be completely certified.
And some of the things we're doing, I know that since I'm supervising all the interns, after our seminars each week, the next hour after seminar, we review for the foundations of reading. Then we're also backtracking some of the praxis objectives. I took actually the social studies praxis. I did not do very well on it. It's very detailed if you have ever looked at that. But we have 240 tutoring to help them with that. And now that we know the way that the practice tests look, at least, we are backtracking those into our methods classes and asking instructors to take like the last 15 minutes or so of class periods to really help students with those testing skills. It's not that they don't have the capability. A lot of it, many times it's just test skills that they need. And so we're trying to work with them on multiple fronts to be able to get them ready and get through those tests.
Well, I love that you took the test to see what they.
I did.
I love that.
The foundations of reading I did really well at. Yeah. So it's great. Go ahead.
One comment I want to say, one thing at Miles as well is that they have revamped how they're doing their field experiences. So they went in and hired someone that actually had been in the schools that operated in a capacity with students being out in placements so that they understood better how to work with the districts and make sure that they were in the appropriate placements and sequencing those, and that's making a good deal of difference as well in terms of their placements. To add a little more caveat to what you're saying, we had a conference last year, and all of the EPPs that attended were able, ETS offered them one content area test of their choice. They were able to take that, a very eye-opening experience for many of the faculty because several had not taken that. And so they really were able to go back to their institutions and start thinking about continuous improvement and how they were going to work with their faculty in those areas. So that was a very, very good thing that we saw come out of that.
Is that something they'll allow more of?
Yes, ma'am. When time permits,
Okay,
we
sure.
tend to go back. We tend to want to go back to that type of conference again. Right now, we're just very rigorously trying to adjust and move from the business that we've been doing to our new continuous improvement process that we talked about a little when we presented the code. And so we are full speed ahead with that right now. But as soon as we are done with that, we'll be turning the page to the next. Yes, ma'am.
Great.
And I was about to say, in line with that, Malik has opened himself up to the colleges and universities to go in and do just that, where you can, take the test. Couldn't think of his last name. I just thought Malik was
McKinney. Yes.
McKinney. Okay, Mr.
Any other comments? It does make a difference when you go and you, when I served in the capacity that you're in, I actually went and took the praxis exam. And it really made a difference even in how you taught the courses.
That's right.
And so to hear the practices that you all put in place, really exciting and could also be used as a recruiting tool when students find out that they will receive the support they need to be successful to become certified teachers. So that's commendable.
Well, what we found was we had invested in new editions of like review books and resources, and even on YouTube, there are resources. But however, we found that it's working better if we backtrack it into the class because they're a captive audience at that point. So they have to do the review with us then. So unless they just get up and leave, but nobody else has done that yet. But yeah, that's good.
And just one more comment, now to be quiet after that, but one thing all of our EPPs, Dr. Kirkland mentioned when she got here, she said, I'm so excited to be here, but I'm wondering what I'm missing in our numeracy classes. So the Office of Math Improvement has a numeracy full-week class this week in Birmingham, and Dr. Maggie had an opportunity to come down as well to speak with the group, but the EPPs across the state, in an effort to make sure that they are rebuilding their courses and including those concepts relevant to what's required for numeracy and numeracy understanding at the elementary grades. They have come together this week to come and take that course, and the learning that's happening in that room is absolutely amazing. Conversations are contagious. It is a beautiful thing to watch.
Great. That's what we like to hear.
Yes.
I want to make a comment on the practice. When I had a conversation with Ms. Ziegler about it, her daughter is finishing up nursing school, and the national clinical exam NCLEX is always taught at every segment of a registered nurse, and that's how you prepare. And if we're really going to prepare in the practice, we need to include, as you said, we need to downgrade to include that testing skills and practice tests with that, because I can tell you the most frightening thing I had was with an earned doctorate, going back for a nursing degree and facing the NCLEX with the danger of failure. And her daughter, I think you should take it in July.
Yes.
Yeah. And that is a trauma. And we think that praxis is tough and forbidding, but most every profession has an exam like that. And most every profession that's been doing it for decades knows how to inculcate that preparation in the instructional program. And it's not teaching the test, it's teaching how to deal with that. And
kind of teacher and what kind of teacher knowledge, skills, and dispositions they have. Because that really comes out in that Ed TPA exam. But you're right, even, and my brother's a medical doctor, and he said the same thing about backtracking because he and I were discussing it. And so I'm
Ed
hoping,
TPA may be an exam, but the practice is the barrier.
right,
I mean,
it is the barrier. You're right.
You can develop those performance skills. A physician does, my son is a physician, and they're continually tested.
That's right.
And then I use nursing because I had that conversation recently with Ms. Ziegler, because you start practicing at every course level, on every rotation, you start taking preliminary exams. And in the physician, every year you work up to that. I mean, those familiar, but we don't yet put that concept as a professional measure that is real in education. We've kind of added on the practice. I didn't do that, but it's something that we have to accept. TPA is nice, but the practice score and the scores that we set on this board is important. If we're going to be professional, if we're going to pay that level, that's going to be something we have to develop.
And it gives us an indicator of their knowledge, their content knowledge.
It's the best indicator. It is a very strong indicator. I'm not going to say yes. Because I'm a very strong supporter and test and measurements that the rest of the board knows they have to tolerate, but it's okay. Thank you very much. Since you brought it up about testing.
Well, it takes all of us, doesn't it?
Any other questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the update on the drafting of the 2025 course of study in digital literacy and computer science.
So South Alabama didn't come.
I don't see them on this agenda.
No, Sal?
They'll be in July.
No. They're coming in
They're gonna
July.
be in
The
July.
dean was not available to come today.
Okay, I knew we wouldn't get them.
You did well. You pulled your agenda off of the assembly, but yeah. So that USA also has programs, but they're going to come in July because the dean was not able to come today.
And they know it's on a Tuesday, right?
We'll make sure. That's a good question. Yeah.
I'm Michelle Collier. I'm the superintendent in Escambia County. It's wonderful to see all of you. Thank you so much. I am really excited about sharing this update with you on the digital literacy and computer science course of study. I'm lucky enough that I was on the committee in 2018 serving as a committee member. I do have some unique insight into the good work that this task force is doing, and Dr. Bozeman and the State Department team has been amazing, and we have a wonderful group of teachers that are working strenuously to get us a new course of study. You know, anything with technology, as soon as you have that, printed, it can be outdated. So it's very important that we're very forward thinking in this course of study. So thank you so much. So I'm super excited just to discuss that. Part of the process was reviewing those 2018 standards, looking back at that, seeing what other states were doing. Our committee did that on the first 2 days, and that was really very insightful, looking at the national standards as well, but also talking through the things that we need with computer science as our students are being required to have that component for our computer science curriculum. But looking forward is part of things that we know that we have to address in education, our artificial intelligence, AI. Cybersecurity, we're all facing threats. Our students need to know how to respond to that. I say if they don't know how to use it for good, the rest of my sentence, right? So with digital citizenship, teaching our students to use technology appropriately in those classrooms. So that's something that was explored and discussed, and it really is our foundation for what the work we're trying to do. The driving goals of the committee, of course, are to, I think they're responding to public input, on that, the comments, but I think there's 90 or so expert reviewers that have signed up
Correct. We're recruiting expert reviewers right now. We have over 90 expert reviewers signed up to be part of this process because we value the voice of every educator who wishes to have a say, and especially the expertise also of our university faculty to make sure that this is a course of study of the utmost scholarship.
And so that's what's really exciting about it, is bringing all those comments together, because together we're going to build something really incredible that that will be a great product. I appreciated the students who spoke today so much about wanting to be engaged. They want project-based learning. They didn't say that word, right? But they want hands-on learning and project-based learning, and this curriculum really does respond to that. So I was probably glowing. I was so happy to hear from students, and I've been visiting summer school. Even our students there need to be engaged, and so this lays a foundation for skills that our teachers can use to help engage our students. So going further, again, integrating that artificial intelligence throughout the entire curriculum. So as we work towards that with cybersecurity, looking at what's coming next, being forward thinking and thinking about what, not just tomorrow, but what does it look like in 5 years. Looking at those emerging standards, but also responding to something that the students did not say, social media, right? And with our Focus Act and our requirements, are thinking about our kids and how to use that, those technologies safely and smartly, but also taking some downtime from the social media side of things and their phones in their classrooms, because of course we banned them in Escambia last year, and it has been a game changer for us to get kids back engaged in our teaching, in our learning. So just sorry, sidebar on that. I do get really excited about this subject, of course. So we, of course, we got a little late start. We did not have our initial scheduled meeting that I know you guys approved when you approved the committee coming together. But the second meetings were very, very productive, looking at those standards, getting our State Department team that's here, to meet our task force and our committee, leading them in that review. The great discussions about the standards that were out there, what we already had, plus what others were doing. The next meetings, of course, we're looking at how do we want to structure things, okay? What themes were emerging? So, I'll just mention that, previously, it's always been theme oriented, and so that makes a lot of sense. So we have, computational thinking, computing systems, impacting of computing, data science, and digital proficiency. One thing I told Dr. Busman, I said, I remember back when we talked about hardware, software, and operating systems, right? And so we're so much further along the pathway for that. We do want to talk about creating proficiency as digital users and being responsible as well. Moving on, so of course, just even the past 2 days, the group has come back together and focused really on embedding those artificial intelligence standards, making sure that it's streamlined, making sure that we're looking at, because our grade spans, K2, 3, 5, 6, 8, 9, 12. What does all that look like if you're laying out the roadmap? How do we build upon one another? So those standards are being looked at now, because right now it's our time to pull everything together, really to get to where we are prepared to ask for that public input and that public comment, because we do want to improve ourselves. We can't be just within our bubble and say, hey, this is a great document, right? So we know we've got great places for input, and our experts will give us lots of feedback. So we're looking forward to that. I think I understood, I'm pretty sure, that there's our team has asked for more time. They want to have a couple of other, additional meetings with Dr. Busman.
Correct. So the summer especially, this is what's great about this process with the DLCS course of study is that it's bringing together multiple sections. It's bringing together educational technology, it's bringing together our CTE staff, it's bringing together instructional services to work on this. And so with the number of just conferences during the summer that our team has or is arranging to meet virtually over the next couple of weeks to bring forth a few more changes before we target our August 1st release of the draft.
So that's work that, we have a committed team that is working on, and I was watching them as they're working in the Google Doc that's being shared. So that's really exciting to be able to see the changes happening as we're having conversations even outside of those meeting times. So another thing, as you're looking at that, of course, our goal is for the December, for it to come to the board. But that's a lot of work, of course, that will be done between the summer and then also August, September. So that's really exciting times and things that we're looking at. Just I want to remind you that this is this is our blueprint. This is our place to start. This is what gives our teachers their guidance. our students that spoke about curriculum, we have to make sure that this is laid out for them in a friendly manner. That's what the great team behind me and the teachers that are on this committee have been working towards, is that friendly layout where teachers understand the expectations by grade level, and that they talk crosswalk, vertical alignment, so that they can address those things, reminding us that, we're trying to create, thinkers, right? Critical thinkers, and we're trying to create problem solvers. We want our students to have the freedom to do that, because this is what's going to be for our, our ethical use of technology, right? I mean, we really want to teach them to be smart and use technology appropriately as well as it is age appropriate.
Why don't you have your team stand up?
You're working on You're working on it, yes.
Don Morrison and Amanda Dykes are spearheading our secondary grade bands, our 6-8 or 9-12. They are doing a phenomenal job, because sometimes that computer science language can be above certain people's understandings. As a history person, I've studied periods where there wasn't that technology. So they've been phenomenal. I've got to definitely compliment Ms. Dykes yesterday. The activity, the focus yesterday was taking all the grade bands and looking at that progression from kindergarten through grade 12, because that technology, just like math, those skills, that knowledge builds on itself. So that was a big emphasis yesterday, was making sure that our document, that our teachers speak as a team from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade, and that progression makes sense.
That's good.
I have a question. Did you have one? Okay. So you said you have 90 expert reviewers
Signed up at this point.
signed up at this point. Are any of those expert reviewers from industry?
I'd have to download the sign up to verify. I know we've got a good mix of university and teachers, K-12 teachers. I would have to look at
Have we ever sought out anybody from industry to review? And the reason I ask this is I just read an article yesterday, and it's in depth, so I've got to go back and keep working through it because it is a bit over my head, but it is regarding 6G, which is going to greatly impact the field of technology, computer science. The devices that are being proposed in industry that our students are going to at least be aware of, maybe not proficient in. But this article is going back through every 10 years from when 2G began until 5G, and every single development that has occurred. And as I was reading it, I was thinking about, well, we've just passed legislation not to have cell phones or devices like this in the classroom, but what devices are coming that we might need to be prepared for, to have policy in place, but then also have our teachers be aware of these devices that are going to impact how they teach the subject matter. So I guess I'm saying a lot to come back around and say, do we have flexibility built in if this policy or course of study might need to be altered year to year in some way, because we're learning so much faster now with AI, and there's so many, the changes are coming so quickly in this field, and I am concerned that we might need industry experts to advise us.
Well, I do know too, and I don't speak for you, but I know that, I'll use this as an example. We started teaching with word processors, right? We were teaching keyboarding. We wanted them to be able to do the keyboard in such and such time. This is where I've seen very much flexibility, and like I was complimenting that because the team is not thinking about it's just Microsoft, it's just Google. They're talking about what is the task, and then how can that be managed through whatever tool it is. I do think that's where some flexibility happens in that course of study, because the tool is not named, right? It's the device, it's the software, it's the program, it's learning those skills, learning how to identify phishing, learning how to solve a problem, how to debug something. All those things it doesn't matter what software you're using, but which skill are you teaching, right? What skill are you teaching so that they can do that and be informed. So teaching that beginning, because I think a lot will change in AI, because but AI has been here since Google was invented, right? Since the internet came around, right? So that is not something new, but how we're addressing it is, right? Even on our academic integrity, you know, we want students to still be thinkers, right? We use your resources, yes, but don't copy and paste that. That's plagiarism because it is not your own initial thought. So those are the things that I think are going to make a big difference in this course of study.
The idea of ChatGPT, I just finished a 10-hour course. I can cheat with the best of them.
Yeah.
I can write my speeches and articles. It's amazing.
In 30 seconds or less.
And, but the fact that you mentioned that, I know your ChatGPT is the lowest level, and there are so many different levels to put photos and change your whole life around. So, and that's what you're talking about. In level 6 will make it even more significant. But how are you, because it's even before you started the course, the actual ChatGPT and its expansiveness, and I was shocked at how stupid I was how much time I wasted. I could do my dissertation with ChatGPT, and it would be great, because teachers that think they could go back and find what you could do now have a very difficult time. So tell me about what you're doing with that phase of AI, the ChatGPT.
I think it's super important. I mean, and ATEM has been doing a great job of providing a lot of professional development to our teachers, right? Because it has to start with our teachers and our leaders. We have to know, you know, how to address that and how to form policy around it. I think for us, you know, it's a big challenge, because I mean, you use our resources like we do, but we don't want to stop thinking and being thinkers. So I think that's where I keep my team focused on too. But I know ATEM has done so many trainings, and they're going to do more on the tools that are available through AI. But as soon as you say, okay, so that's why, you know, I'm going to just be honest, you can't block ChatGPT in a district, because as soon as you do, they're already using something else, right? So that doesn't solve your problem. But how do you teach them to think, how to use the resources that help them build a better answer and a better response? So I think we've got lots of areas where we
the
can.
whole idea of AI is know how to sequence the next question with the data you find. I mean, I'm not going.
It helps you to be a good, you can build questions, right? I mean, you have to know what you're looking for.
If you're doing it right,
that's right.
Your first answer only brings up 5 different questions to come up to what you need.
Well, and that teaches you to write and be a prompt builder, right? So that still helps us learn writing skills.
Our content specialists have ensured that with artificial intelligence, it's a theme that while it's not a big heading theme, it has, as with social studies, we have the Alabama state icon to indicate Alabama connections. We don't have an icon so far, but we do have the letters AI highlighted. I was joking that whenever I think about AI, I think about Will Smith in the movie AI, and I mean just put Will Smith's picture there. But when there's a movie called Artificial Intelligence that starred Will Smith. But with that in mind, we have AI indicated an icon that's, or the letters right now highlighted, standing out from our K2 grade band all the way through the higher level 912, and what we see with that is progression of understanding how AI works, how to utilize AI, as well as the moral and ethical dilemmas that are brought up by utilizing AI. So it's a continuous presence in the course of study, and it's definitely something that's been a focus of the team.
And the language arts teachers are going to have to incorporate ChatGPT, or they're going to lose. They won't even know what the students are doing.
That's correct. And even teaching them how to do lessons on how to check for plagiarism. I mean, it's a great activity that can be done.
Yes, thank you all for the great work that you're doing with the course of study for digital literacy. But I do want to highlight that we have some wonderful, just amazing work going on surrounding the support for AI across our district. And I know she's probably going to try to go under the chair because she's just not that type of person. But Sue Ellen Gillen in the back, she is leading some marvelous professional development work for our educators across the state. And what you're mentioning is the ATM, that's our technology team, and their boots on the ground, as she called them, and they are getting ahead of this. And we also have Java that's doing great work, and he's serving on multiple committees. We are. It's kind of funny. So I just want you guys to know that we are really pushing this work out, and it's across the board, it's cross-sectional work. The professional development and support, we know that it's needed, and we're really grounding ourselves in that work, and our team is taking this really serious because we do want our learners to truly be thinkers, but yet still use those resources that are available to them in the correct manner. So the courses of study, yes, wonderful, and that background, that information that you were just describing is there, but I do want to celebrate the great work that's going on and the nights that she stay up to make certain, oh my God, here's something new. And, you know, working in the boundaries that have been laid out through our various offices to say which form of AI that we're able to incorporate in our work. So we're really very intentional with that. And I just could not sit here and not recognize great work that she's putting forth in her team. And she's that silent storm behind the work. But thank you, Sue Ellen, for that. And I think we're going to see more and more of that rolling out from Ed Tech as well as our instructional services team. So I'm very thankful to that, Dr. May.
Any other questions?
I do want to commend that you're trying to update your standard. I know that a goal was to reflect the rapid evolution of computer science, and you're working at 2018 standards now, so you know, but that you're trying to make it so you don't have to look at it every 2 years, you know, that you're making it so whatever the device is or whatever technology is to make it comparable for that review. So thanks for that. Great job.
So remind you that the timeline, this is something we just incorporated maybe last year, doing a mid-year report. In years past, board members remember you didn't actually see anything until November, and then we're asked to vote on it in December. Right. And so that's one of the reasons we started doing this mid-year, to let you be, just kind of jog your thinking about it. And if you, like the question about industry, do we have industry people looking at it? Do we have other folks thinking about these things? So as you think about that over the next month or so, if you'll reach out to, I won't throw Superintendent Collier out there because she's also running a district. If you reach out to Dr. Busman with any thoughts, questions, we will, have time to incorporate those things. If you look at the timeline that Superintendent Collier presented now, this will come back to you in the November work session. But the public comment period, there's always time for public comment, but there's a formal public comment period coming in, I think, August, September. Yes, and then they'll have to take those comments and incorporate them during the month of October. It'll come to you that first Thursday in November, and then we'll have a work session on it the second Thursday in November. But so then things get, they get to moving pretty fast at the end of the year. And just a reminder about that, if you hear anything out there, pass those along so they can incorporate those thoughts. It's good working committee. We also, last year we were doing arts and social studies. So some years we do two. It's very, very common we're doing two. This year we're only doing this one course of study. So it's just digital literacy and computer science. It's a big one, but that also helps our staff focus on their energies. And thank you for the work.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Before we
Just
go
stay.
for lunch, we'll go on and have you do the next presentation.
So before Dr. Busman starts, let me say, some of you may have been thinking, even Dr. Busman, when you sat down, I thought, he's not supposed to be here, but because he has been promoted. So last year, he was our social studies specialist. He is now the leader of that whole section over all of our courses of study. He took Kathy Jones' place. Remember, Kathy went to AmSty and now leads our AmSty efforts. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I'm trying to think. Both work under Sean Stevens in Instructional Services, and Dr. Melissa Shields then is the next layer up on that. We're glad we stole Dr. Busman years ago from Auburn High School when he was the National Social Studies Teacher of the Year, and we have been thrilled that they've not been able to lure him back over there. So he is also leading our work on Alabama's semi-quincentennial. So I'll turn it over to you to talk about that.
Welcome. Sorry you have to hear me twice. As my oldest son said, who would want to do that this morning? But it's been a great transition into the course of study administrator, and at the same time, still seeing the successful implementation of our new social studies course of study. We've got over 450 educators signed up for works meetings this summer, in which we're talking about the new standards. We've got some great resources coming out, and we're looking forward to seeing how successful that is. And that's coming out at the same time as our Alabama 250 commission is really getting going. With that in mind, I think there is a presentation.
Yeah, he's there you go.
Yes, sir. So in the history world, there are so many commemorations, and some certainly bigger than others, some nationally supported, some state, some local. American 250 is a big deal. I know, Dr. Reynolds, you're heading up to DC this week for the 250th anniversary of the Army, is that correct? So we've got a lot of things coming along with this. American Village just celebrated the 250th anniversary of the Battle of Lexington and Concord. They had a Saturday reenactment. So things are flowing fast with this. In regards to our role here at the State Department of Education, we are not technically part of the Alabama commission that was established in 2021. We can be invited to the table if they so wish. But that does not mean that we're not being part of that process. We've established a very successful relationship with American Village, with Natalie Steed, who is the executive officer of the Alabama Commission right now. As a matter of fact, I have a meeting with Ms. Steed tomorrow. Dr. Mackey met with kind of a program that's developed out of the commission. Yesterday, he met with the Trojan Patriot Academy, which is a joint initiative between Troy University and the American Village that's building leadership in conjunction with principles of the American Revolution. So I believe over 100 students from across Alabama are participating in that camp this week, and that's between Troy University and the American Village. So right now we do have an official Alabama USA semi-quincentennial commission. I will try to say semi-quincentennial when I can, but I will probably default to 250. That has also become a fun game at our house, is saying that 5 times fast.
250.
Well, it's semi-quincentennial. It is a tongue twister. But there's a lot going on, and it's just getting going. There's a nationwide competition that we have now highlighted for 2 years in a row, and I'm very excited to say that as of this week, it was announced we have 2 Alabama students who were first place winners in the nationwide competition, America's Field Trip. I'm waiting to get their names, and that way we can recognize and celebrate their achievements. But what America's Field Trip is a kind of a creative writing assignment in a way. It could be art, it could be video, it could be an essay about what America means to them. And with that, if you do win, you get your choice of a field trip in America, in the United States, across the United States, whether it be national parks here in Alabama. I know American Village is one of the options, but you get to choose for yourself and a parent a 2 or 3 day field trip, all expenses paid, to one of these sites. So we have 2 of the national winners came from Alabama this year, which is outstanding. One thing that several of our schools participated in, as well as I'll mention here in a moment, several teacher families, 2 Lights for Tomorrow. That was a big commemoration that came with Lexington and Concord in the spring, in April. It did happen to fall on Easter weekend, so I'm not sure how many schools were able to participate based on having some late spring breaks, etc. Here in Alabama, while it's not part of the Revolutionary years connected to the Revolution, we just had General Lafayette visit many of our schools as he traveled around the state. That was a great celebration, have Lafayette drop in on some schools. And what we are just now pushing as this new initiative has been put out by the commission is that they have semi-quincentennial schools, which is similar, if you recall, the bicentennial school initiative, but not necessarily as project intensive on the schools. There are some basic principles, agreements that schools make. The hope of American Village is we just pushed this out in May and have a really big push come the fall, but the schools that have already signed up to be a semi-quincentennial school, They're hoping to have those banners out to those schools by the beginning of the school year so that schools can begin to place those and proudly say that we are celebrating the semi-quincentennial at our school. Another very exciting thing, if you are a history person like myself, we have a new Ken Burns film coming up. For those of you who like 10 plus hours of documentary. And Ken Burns films are always phenomenal teaching resources. APTV is bringing forth several initiatives with this new Ken Burns film, The American Revolution, that comes out in the fall in November 2025. This summer, they already have several workshops set up around the state that they're calling Revolutionary Tools for Revolutionary Teaching, showing teachers some of the things that APTV or PBS already has out there to teach the American Revolution, as well as to teach civics, because this is not just the history, it's the civics-related component as well. They, in conjunction with the commission, in the fall, with the premiere of the American Revolution, will have what they call the Student Voices Project, which is similar in a way to the American field trip, and the question is, what does it mean to be an American? And so that project will be in conjunction with the premiere of the American Revolution at the American Village. They'll have these pieces of art, essays on display at that premiere. Just this week, I did receive an email from APTV asking for some recommendations of teachers to begin developing curriculum that will support our grades 6 and grade 10 that go along with the American Revolution film. The curriculum that PBS and APTV put out in conjunction with Ken Burns Films are top notch. I had the privilege of working with them on the Vietnam War documentary that came out almost, I guess, 7 years now that it came out. And so they're putting together a team of Alabama educators to create lessons to go along with the film for Alabama teachers. So that's an initiative that they're hoping to launch come fall, working with those teachers. What we are doing to actively support this is be a means of communication with our teachers. We do have, in the social studies realm, we have a monthly newsletter that goes out during the school year called the Alabama Social Studies Chronicle. This goes out to over 4,500 educators across the state. And every month, beginning this past January, I meet with the American Village staff, Natalie Steed, and ask them, what announcements do you want to put forth to our teachers? And so we work in conjunction to communicate these updates and get these out to our teachers. Matter of fact, I included a quote here from Lights for Tomorrow from a teacher who said, I wanted to write, thank you for this issue and the inclusion of 2 Lights for Tomorrow. I do not think I would have learned about this event without this newsletter. My mom, myself, and several other ladies and other friends and family members participated by lighting 2 LED candles Friday night. So we want to put that information in our teachers' hands. We want them to know what resources are out there, what initiatives are out there, because that not only eases the burdens on our teachers, but it also elevates social studies education across Alabama by letting them know of this. As you may recall, we just passed a new social studies course of study. This upcoming year is an optional year. We have heard from multiple districts that they're going ahead and moving forward with the new standards for fall 2025. Fall 2026 is the beginning, but you will see with this is just a sample that the American Revolution Declaration of Independence is across many grade levels. This is just 6 different grade levels right here in which that is emphasis. So this is a major theme of our course of study, and that Alabama students will receive knowledge, learning, actively engage with the study of the American Revolution Declaration of Independence at many points in their education journey in Alabama. And with that, I'll take any questions, but also, as Thomas Jefferson reminds us, is that education is the preservation of our republic and preservation of our sense of liberty. So it's critical that we continue this work. Any questions?
Great job.
Keep it up.
Great.
Is there any way we can get a copy of the newsletter that you send to the schools?
Yes, ma'am. I can add y'all's emails to that.
Please, that would be.
It comes out during the school year. I try not to overload teachers with emails during the summer.
That would be lovely, thank you.
But that was started earlier this year?
No, when I came on board in 2022, the goal, knowing that the course of study was coming on, we started that newsletter then to build a sense of community among social studies teachers, so they felt the ease to communicate any questions and stuff as the course of study process began.
Okay, so you've been sending that since then,
Yes, ma'am.
but the ones for the 250,
Started in January, and so I worked with the 250 staff at the American Village about what initiatives they want to communicate each month. So we've been adding a feature every month in 2025 about that.
but you've not been sending anything yet. You will start in August.
No, we've been sending it out. We've been sending out updates on 250 beginning this past January.
Is that something we can get back?
Yeah, I can send
Yeah,
copies.
that would be awesome.
That's a great idea.
Okay.
We will break for lunch and resume at
Thank you.
12:45.
Thank you.
12:45.
They're ready upstairs.
We're ready to move forward. Address college and career readiness and the graduation rate data.
Okay, think they're gonna pull this up. I'm gonna go back to, we'll get that started, I'm gonna go back to the clickers down there. Let me go get it so I don't have to make Charles click through everything. This will be, it's all good news. It could go fairly fast. It may take a little time. We won't talk about it more. But first of all, four-year graduation rate, I'm gonna, let me give a little bit, oh good, my expert's back. Whew, they let you eat lunch? Who told you could go to lunch? Dr. Shields. Okay, so I may need to refer back to her in a minute. So four-year graduation rate, remember that we gather a cohort data. So that means when you enter ninth grade, you enter the cohort for graduation. We all know what cohort is. It's a, you know, I'm the class of whatever. If you get behind and eventually graduate, but don't graduate with your cohort, you don't count as a graduate in these data. So there's some students that graduate late, something happens like that. Students who graduate early, if they get early graduation, of course, do count as part of their cohort. We only do a four-year cohort, so maybe remember we used to also measure a five-year cohort, and some states still do a five-year cohort, but it actually was working against our districts to do a five-year cohort in the accountability system, and they asked us to go back to just 4 years instead of having two measures, so we did just 4 years. So I think that's actually what I was talking about. So here's where we are. 2023, this is not, this is the most recent data available. This is not 25, the people who graduated last, 2 weeks ago. But in 23, you saw we were at 90.04. So maybe you remember we had dropped below 90% during the pandemic to about 88. Now we're at 91.56, which ties the highest we've ever been. It's an increase of about 1.5%. So I feel really good about that. Statistically, it's not a big difference. You multiply that out, it's actually several hundred more students who graduated in 24 than 23. Makes me think we're probably...
How many did you say?
I said several hundred.
Several? I thought you said a number.
No, we could do the math for you. We got it, the exact numbers. And our cohort is not getting smaller. Okay, so that's one thing you worry about is are you bleeding out in other ways? But in general, graduation rate looks pretty good and students are sticking with us. Now, we measure college readiness too. These are, you remember there are 9 ways students can demonstrate college or career readiness. ACT benchmark, so they get the college ready benchmark on ACT, an industry approved credential they earn through CTE, the ACT work keys of silver or higher, military enlistment, so if they're accepted in the military, they're obviously ready to move on. Advanced placement qualifying score, that would be a 3 or higher on a 5-point test. Career technical completer, so they have 3 years in one course of study, and including a capstone course. So not just 3 career tech courses, but they have to basically major in, say, a welding or something like that, and complete. International baccalaureate exam, we have very few IB students because we have very few IB programs in the state, but we do have some across the state. In-school youth apprenticeship program, that's something y'all know we had great hopes for that. It has not worked out so well because they have to be 18 to go into an apprenticeship. Most of our kids don't turn 18 until somewhere in the middle of their senior year, and so it just doesn't work out as well. So we have very few of those. And then they approve a college or post-secondary credit in high school. So they get an approved college credit while in school. That is our fastest growing area, by the way. Okay, so you'll see last year, or 2023, 84.2%, and then this year we're at 88 or 87.88%, almost 88%, almost a 4% gain. Feel really good about that. But we're not there yet, because remember that in a couple of years, I think it's class of 2030, maybe it's quicker than that. So 27, class of 27? I'm not going to guess
Yes.
it. When we require CCR to graduate high school. So I think it is the class of 27.
Yes.
That they have to have a CCR or they are not going to be able to get a diploma. So obviously we got it's what? 26. 26. Oh, you're going to make me sweat, Mr. Stevens. That should make you sweat
So
more than it makes me sweat. You're the one doing it.
That'll be this spring.
Yeah, so with those numbers we'll have to meet. So they'll have to have a CCR in order to graduate. And you remember there's a caveat to that. We do have some students who are more in what we, I can't think of the right term now, but we used to call severe and profound special needs students who are in a different category altogether. So these are both really good data though. They're the right direction. We obviously have just finished the 25-year, but the 25-year data is not all out there and available yet, and students are still graduating. I know that they've had ceremonies, but remember we have a lot of students who graduate in the summer. And I say a lot, relatively it's not a lot, but we do have students who maybe did not finish a course. If they finish this summer, they still count as a graduate in their cohort. So we do have some students who are still finishing up school, and then we'll collect that data this fall, and then next spring we'll have those data ready to roll out. We have put a lot into this CCR piece, as you know. Y'all asked for, when this became a graduation requirement, you asked for a new line item in the budget for grants to help schools get CCR ready. And the legislature has funded that every year since. They funded it for this coming year, so we're currently in the process of doing those grant applications. They can be anything from ACT prep to remedial courses. There are all sorts of things they can do, but they have to be focused on raising that number. And it's nice to see policy. Oh, well, that's too bad I don't have my students here. You talk about policy. You implement a strategy to meet the policy, and then you see the results. And so we're seeing that. Okay, I think that's the end of this. Sean Stevens, Instructional Services back there. If you've got any questions, he can answer. He put this together for us, and his section does that work. But if you've got any questions right now, if not, I'll be ready to go into the next one, but now I'm not trying to rush you on this.
Any questions?
Okay, there'll be more questions later. This is, by the way, these are brand new data, so they've not been released. The media have them now that you have them, and the districts have seen their own data, but they haven't seen the statewide compilation, so they don't know. So like our district superintendents know what their graduation rate is, but they don't know what everybody else is. They know what their CCR rate is, but they don't know all of them. So now they'll be able to do some comparisons too. Okay, I think that the next thing is the reading impact. Is that right? So here we are, right to it. So I want to show this to you in a couple of ways, and I'm going to, Ms. Martin, did I do a handout for them on this? I can't remember, I know we talked about it. We put it in the data, didn't we?
Yes, it's in documents, but we also have a separate one of the 3 years.
Oh, okay, let's do that if you don't mind. Let me pass those out. So, third grade students, how many are on grade level at the end of the year? So the short answer to that is 88.4% on or above grade level, 11.6% below grade level. This is a little bit misleading. I want to show, because you're going to see the 3-year data with the 444. I'm sorry, this is, this is this year's data. So 2025 the cut score at 444. Okay, if I go back, that's right. I had another graph and I asked them actually to get rid of it because it's confusing. So, but you have in front of you 3 charts, 3 columns. That would be if we went back and applied the 444 cut score to the last 2 years. Because one of the things I'm worried about, I'm looking at my media corner, is that if you look at this year's number, it looks like we regressed slightly, not much. But it's 100% only because we raised the cut score. Because if we take the current cut score and then apply it to last year's data and the data before, you see that we would have seen growth. So that tells me that not only do we have 11.6% below grade level, but we are seeing growth across the board. Now, another thing that's in your documents in Assembly, if you go in there and on the upper right hand where it says documents, and you go to what should be, if you listed by numerically, it'll be your first folder. You also have it by district. So you have all the districts in your district, all the school districts in your district, and you can see everybody else's district too. So you can see what the third grade reading looked like for every district in the state. We will release that. I was asked by the media this morning. We'll release that this afternoon at 3 o'clock to the public. But
is that a sticky note where I'm supposed to click?
Sticky note? No. It should, up at the top, it should say documents. The upper right hand should say documents, and then I don't know why I'm doing this.
The same place where you see meetings.
And then it'll open up beside meetings. You'll see documents. If you click on documents, you'll see a bunch of folders, and it's the last folder, third one down. Third one down.
The one that starts with ACAP.
ACAP district level summary.
Says ACAP district level summary.
That's the only way to do it.
All right, we need help over here, please.
I'll make sure you can all find it before you leave.
Hey, I found it. Everybody should find it.
Well,
I'm gonna have to bring Michelle Collier back from Escambia County, and we'll work on our technology. But it's in there as you're pulling it up. Take a little time.
That's district.
ACAP. There you go. That's it. And it's by school board district, and then all of your districts under. Okay.
Yeah, so you don't know how to do that.
Can't get it? Is it just slow opening?
It's
or?
a different view, Dr. Mackey. It's not. It's an iPad app.
Oh, I don't know about that. I never use the app. I always go to the website through my iPad.
Okay, so I need to go out and go in through my.
Probably go into the browser and go to Assembly and Google.
I'll help you find it. Okay. Anyway, any questions about statewide data? I'm going to help everybody find your district data. But it's, statewide we're improving. It's going up, as you saw in that 3-column chart. I don't have one in front of me, but it's improved pretty. Let's see what the. Thank you. Thank you. You'll see that if we applied the 444 in 2023. Which is the first year we had the current test. There you are. Legacy board members, remember, we've had 2 different tests. The first 2 years we measured, we had the old test on the old standards, then we moved to the new one. I've told them to quit even showing me charts on the old test on the old standards because it was a different set of standards, it's a different test. What are the standards we're testing now? So starting in 23, you have the first year, the old one, and you have 20.8 is where we would have been. But then that's old. If you look at the new, now we have 13.7 last year, 11.6 this year. So we're seeing that number of students below grade level continuing to decline. And that's what we want. That first year, I know there's a big jump, but again, remember that's old. Those are the old standards. And so we know that we weren't testing really grade level reading, and so there was the numbers were a little bit skewed. New standards, we're testing the real stuff now. So it's looking good. You get down to individual district data. Some districts are higher than others. We do have districts that are still down in the high 60s to about 70% on grade level, up until we have 2 school systems that are 100%. And those 2 school systems, I'm not sure, they're either in District 1 or 5, but they are Satsuma and Orange Beach. Satsuma and Orange Beach are both 100%. So that, we only had 1 district last year that was 100%, it was Orange Beach, and this year Satsuma joined them at 100%. So we're excited to see that. There are a lot of them that tested in around, the mid-90s, but we do have some districts that are around 70% still. And so we're working on, Ms. Martin has been pulling together the team, and I know we're looking at between instructional services, OSI, our reading initiative folks, what is the strategic focus on all of those districts that are hovering still around 70% or above that. So we're working on that. And those are district level. So obviously, even within those, you're going to have some high performers. A good example is Montgomery County. Montgomery County is one of those. It's, high poverty district. They're not where we want them to be, but they have some schools that are 95% or higher. And so we don't want to, we don't want to make it out like everybody in that district is struggling. Some of their schools are really struggling. Some of them are struggling a lot less. So
Dr. Mackey, when time permits, I know you're doing this, but will the board be able to see by district the schools that are underperforming?
The schools, yes.
The individual schools.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at several districts in District 2, and I know that they got some very good schools, and some of them, and so I would like to know specifically what has pulled their number down.
Yes, you'll be getting school level data before the July meeting. By the July meeting, we'll have it. Yes. Okay. And now, of course, districts know this. A couple of you asked us. Actually, none of you mentioned it to me. It's funny. I think y'all were asking Chuck, and some of you asked Angela and said, "We don't have this data yet, but the school in my neighborhood has posted their data."
Yeah.
Well, so it is. It's technically embargoed, but I don't want to go and get on to principals who feel really good about what they're doing. So we'll. But anyway, that is a ongoing issue. Nevertheless, it's all public now, and we do have it by school. I think they're just going through something to cleaning that up, but as quick as we can, we'll get it to you. Maybe well before July.
I'm just interested in finding out specifically the absentee rate on those individual students. I mean, if you've got, I'm just looking at one, if you're only testing, if you've got 44 above and you're only testing 57, that's pretty, you can really drill down and find out exactly what's happening
with those students.
And so I'm just very interested in being able to have those conversations. I mean, we're now 3 years in, and correct me if I'm wrong, we're gonna stick with 444 next year. One more year. So I think it's time for these really deeper conversations about what is happening with school leadership in specific schools that we are not seeing marked improvement. And I, want to speak as plainly as I can about that.
You should, and that's happening. And I don't put Bonnie on the spot, but Bonnie's short with ARI, so those conversations are going on right now. Plus, this year for the first time, we're getting close to live data on summer school attendance. Are these students showing up for summer programming? In the past, we've always had to, we couldn't get that data until we did a district survey at the end of the summer, but we're able to get some, not live, but close to live data this year. So
we know our process it works. And we know that we have a good plan. We just gotta get them to school. So I'm just really interested in seeing the level of absenteeism in the students that are underperforming when we know their teachers have been trained, we know we have the right plan. So I would, I'm just interested.
Absolutely. Good question, and you'll be seeing more and more of that. These, remember, these have all been, parents have all been notified. I mean, I was out this morning, I took a run this morning, and school bus pulled up, and I thought, why is there a school bus turning on its lights? And this is pretty early in the morning. And they were picking up a child for summer camp, summer reading camp. So so those camps are already ongoing. And you'll also remember this year, we told the districts to notify any parents whose children were between 444, the cut score, and the target score, which is 476, I think. So those students who are close, they're reading on grade level statistically, but they are so close that they could easily slip below grade level the next year. So we want parents to know that. We don't want them to think that automatically, because their students promoted to 4th grade, that they're in the clear, because obviously a student who is a 474 is very close to a student who's a 477, very different from a student that might be at 500. And so we want to make sure we send clear messages to parents. Yes, Dr. Reynolds.
If we were using one standard error measurement, what would the number be?
Oh, I don't know.
Can we get that? Because are you contemplating, as Ms. West said, after next year going to one standard?
The board's already voted to do that, yes.
Okay.
Board voted last year to go to -1
That's what I remember.
next year.
So wouldn't it be appropriate for us to get this analytical data you projected back to show progress? If you project forward, you could show the challenge.
Okay. Yeah, we can. I mean, it's easy to run it.
I know, but I'm saying, I understand us projecting, going back to show progress, but if we're going to go forward, doing what Ms. West is talking about, to see where we really are in terms of what our goal is.
Okay. Yeah, we can do that. And then the data you also, I asked them not to give me too much data today, but of course we also measure 2nd grade. We do 2nd grade testing too. And so that is, I don't know if we've even posted that in there, because I actually asked them I said, let's just focus on 3rd grade. This is our target, but we're going to be sharing the 2nd grade data with you too. So that'll come to you. I'll just send you an email and tell you when it's posted in your assembly, and you'll be able to go in and see where the 2nd graders are in your district too versus statewide. We also saw growth in 2nd grade. Remember, it's a little different test. It's more difficult to measure. The earlier students are, the more difficult it is to actually ascertain their exact level. So the 2nd grade test is designed a little differently from 1st grade. But but we also saw growth in 2nd grade.
I would ask for another line of data in this report. It shows total state of Alabama. I'd like the total for my school district. Can it be computed in there? In the district plan, it shows me what each school system is.
We'll figure that out for you. We'll get with you. I'll get somebody to get with you on that. Yes, sir.
We can just add them all up.
No, you can't, because you have to weight them according to how many students are in each number. You just can't add them up and divide by. If I have one student that's got 406 tested, another has 1863 tested, you can't average those two because they'd be weighted.
I got so many statisticians around, Dr. Reynolds. You statisticians.
I'm saying if you have one score with 406 representing 406 and another score representing 1900, then you have to weight the two. And they can do it statistically, but you just can't average the two. I can.
Yeah, that's no problem. We can get that. is that the end of the agenda?
Yep.
Because I've got several more things to talk
Your
about.
agenda or mine?
Okay, so I'm where I thought I was. Okay, so this is the last of these slides. I would like to share now, if I could, a memo that is that right? American 250, we did college career readiness, we did state level reading. Yeah, we're to my report. Okay, so this is a memo that you actually have. Some of you may have already read it. It went out yesterday, or the day before, I think yesterday, on the RAISE Act. But I want to talk a little bit about legislation that we're working on. I mentioned, the next 6 to 7 days are going to be kind of crazy and hectic in my world. But next week, I'll be talking to superintendents at their conference. Wednesday mornings, our State Department presentation, myself and Mr. Watts and Ms. Martin will all be taking part of that, breaking it up. And then the next Sunday, I will be at AASB to talk with school boards. It's always a little different presentation. It's obviously different with school boards than with superintendents. But some of these things will be a theme for both of those discussions. So I wanted to talk to you about some of the things that we'll be saying to them. I have 3 hours with superintendents. I promise, Dr. Chestnut, this is not a 3-hour presentation. But so first is this memo. This is the RAISE Act. So you all know that the RAISE Act is the new funding model placed on top of the foundation program model. Again, this has already been posted. You got a copy in your email, but I want to highlight because you can look at the districts in your system. Well, they're not by board district; these are by LEA code. But you can look at and see how much money each school system is getting for poverty, special ed, English language learner, gifted, charter schools, and then special ed by Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. So, yeah, and you remember you do have it on the internet too. I can get you a bigger copy if you need it. But I want you to be able to see, because people keep asking me, what's it mean in reality that we've got the reality now, and this is how much additional money each school is getting in each one of those categories based on the student population as measured last October. Remember, this is not student population coming up this year because we have to run data based on what we have. So based on the count that came in last October, we ran the data, and this is how much extra funding they get. Remember, not all of it is extra, is new. Not all of it is new funding. Because, for instance, gifted. There's a gifted column here, but the gifted line item that has been in the budget historically was zeroed out. So it's coming to the schools under a different formula, but it's not like with gifted. It's actually not a lot more money because essentially the legislature took the money that was in the gifted program and we're allocating it a different way now. Now that's not completely because they actually did bump it up a little bit, and they made sure that there actually are some what we call hold harmless built into this. Nobody got less than they were getting before. So if your new gifted calculation was actually less than what you used to get, then the legislature allowed us to bump that up. So nobody got less than they were getting before in any line item. Same way with at-risk. The legislature did away with the old at-risk line item, and they replaced it with the poverty. So they took there's 3 or 4 old line items that were eliminated. That money was rolled into the RAISE Act. In addition, they took $140 million or so. I'm looking at Mr. Watts. I shouldn't do that, put you on the spot, but about $166 million total. So they took additional money out of the savings account, the EORF, Education Opportunities Reserve Fund, EORF, and bumped it up out of that savings account. They committed to do that for at least 2 more funding cycles, so FY 27 and 28. actually already committed money from the EORF to bolster this for at least 2 more years. So we won't be paying for the RAISE Act completely on growth for at least 3 years and probably 5 or 6 years. There's money in the savings fund to bolster that account. At some point when the savings fund is exhausted, then it'll have to be paid for out of current funds. I'm glad to answer any questions on it or to try to answer any questions on it. The main thing is I wanted to point it out. Superintendents now and CFOs now have this in front of them as they build their budget. They know how much money they're getting out of the RAISE Act to add on to their foundation program checks.
Dr. Mackey, let me just add.
Yes, sir.
What they did, they took about $108 million out of EORF to transfer to the RAISE Act, and the other $58 million were monies that they reappropriated from ELL, from at-risk, and from gifted to shift over to the RAISE Act as well to make up that total of $166 million.
Thank you very much. So it's $58 million from recurring funds that got shifted, and then the balance,
right,
a little over $100 million came from the EORF.
So per district, we can't tell how much is new money.
No, ma'am. No, I don't have that by district. We could, I guarantee you your CFOs know by now because they've been working those calculators last night and figuring out what I got last year versus, but we don't have I don't want to say we don't. I'm a smarter man than I over there, but I don't know exactly how we would run that calculation. But
the CSFOs should be able to look at the amount of the allocations that they received last year for gifted, for ELL, and for at-risk, and compare that to the new allocations for poverty, for ELL, and for, which one am I missing? And for gifted. So they'll be able to compare those numbers, and they will see that the funds that are in the new RAISE Act should exceed the amount that was allocated last year. And of course, the amount for SPED is just a new allocation.
So the savings account, were we able to grant money from the savings account that they took the 108 million? Last year, did we get any money to spend in local systems from the savings account? Okay.
No money's ever been spent out of that EORF fund until EORF, Education Opportunities Reserve Fund. It was created during the, yes ma'am, let me say this and I'll come back. So the EORF was created during the pandemic cycle when sales tax went off the charts. We had, I think, 1 year close to 20% growth. And wisely, rather than trying to adjust the budget up to match that, they said we're going to put some of this money into a reserve fund, anticipating actually just as much of a dramatic decline. We've not seen that dramatic decline, and so the governor and legislature decided, well, that we're going to use that money now then to fund this, help fund this. Yes, ma'am.
I was going to ask, just because I get questions from legislators in District 2, will our legislative body get a report like this sent over to them so that they can see in their individual districts how the legislation they passed impacted their district?
So they already have it in the Legislative Fiscal Office. We've been working with them, but you're asking about individual legislators.
I am. So I have several legislators that serve in either education budget or policy, but at large, they voted on a very specific, impactful piece of legislation, and I'm just wondering if our representatives and senators might like to just see the full, like how the money actually was allocated out. Would it be helpful to them to see that? I know that often they probably don't get quick answers to laws that they've passed.
I'm going to Connor, I'm gonna let you, we're glad to share it with them. I mean, this is on our website. We don't mind, but we don't have a way, and it's kind of not, we're not supposed to directly like send something out in mass to the legislature. So we'd have to go through the legislative physical office and see if they agreed to send it. But we could make that request.
I think my request to see if we can is based on, the continual that we want to work together, but we don't get communication. I don't want that to be an excuse. I want us to be able to say, you passed something and this is how it's impacting your district where you live and you have to talk to voters. Does that make sense?
It does. And we cannot divide it by legislative district because the money's not awarded to schools. So if somebody says, so example of the, well, Montgomery County is a good example because there's so many legislators. So I couldn't tell Reed Ingram, this is how much went to your district versus, what can I think? Mr. Haskell, what much went to your district? Because it just show them how much went to Montgomery County and show them how much went to Pike Road.
Right.
But it's not assigned by school, it's assigned by district.
Right.
So yeah, we'll work on that. Help me work on a way to get that to them.
And I'm not asking for additional work to drill down or anything. I want the legislators to know, because I send them things, but I don't ever get a response back. So if I send this, I won't hear back. But if you send it, you might get a communication back. And so,
I do think this spreadsheet, which was developed through the committee, was sent out to the legislators during the process of raise getting passed. So I think that they have had a copy
at least
of
some
the spreadsheet
preliminary
already.
numbers.
And ours is exactly the same as far as distribution, mostly the same. But we can definitely work on a way that we can create a communication for you.
That's a good point. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to discuss it in the public work session, and I want to mention it to superintendents and board members, is because I do want people to realize how much money's there. Then there are two caveats here that everybody needs to understand very clearly. So one is, how is the money spent? Now, there was some discretion left to us, and you're going to see on page 2 of the memo where that's where you always put stuff that matters. 10% is if they go above 10%, wanting to move the money, they have to get a waiver from us to do that. So let's say that they said, we've got, now special ed, they don't have to worry about the tiers. Special ed is they can spend in special ed. But if they want to move money from their gifted line item to spend it on the English language learners, they can do that up to 10%. That's just a local board discretion. If they want to go above 10%, they have to come to the State Department and ask me for a waiver. The legislature gave me the authority to do that, and I felt like 10% was a good break. So it's not saying they won't get the waiver, but but we don't want a district to say, you know what, we're going to spend all of our gifted money on English language learners and just not have a gifted program. I mean, if they're going to try to do that, we at least need to know, and we need some justification. Well, exactly why are you wanting to do that? So we did put the 10% waiver thing in at our discretion. Again, the legislature gave me the authority to do that, and I have taken that discretion. The other thing is, remember, it is not the end goal. Senator Orr said this very clearly from the dais. I think Chairman Garrett also said it from the dais, that we can't expect the whole world to change overnight because we're putting in an extra, essentially, $108 million or $101 million because the other money was just shifted. So it's going to take time to grow this to really give the districts anticipated a huge amount of more discretionary money that they can spend on these programs, these students. But it's going to take a while to get there. You remember that the consultants that the legislature hired initially said to make the changes that you're wanting to do, you need $1.5 to $2 billion. We're doing 100 million. So my concern is I don't want people in the public to say, well, you got that News Raise Act money. Why are we not seeing reading scores going, through the roof? Well, even at even at 1.5 to $2 billion, they said it would take many years to see the kind of growth that the commission was talking about. And so this is, I'm very positive about this. It is the way to move forward, but we don't need to have unrealistic expectations to come back next summer and say, well, we showed, Dr. Mackey, you showed about 2% growth again. And why didn't we get 50% growth because we passed the Raise Act? We're not going to see that kind of dramatic change. What we are going to see, though, are incremental changes. We're going to see opportunities for districts to have additional funds, especially in the poverty line item that they've not had before. They are weighted so that the more students you have in poverty, the more money you're going to get, which the foundation program, remember, does not do. So the more students, you'll see there's some districts in here that got no money, zero money in Tier 3 special ed, because they don't have any Tier 3 special ed students. And so they're going to, it's going to give them that flexibility. But don't let people have unrealistic expectations that it's more dramatic than it is. It is a new system that over time will be very beneficial, but it is going to take some time to get there. And I think that was a wise decision on part of the legislature to not try to go in and do some huge tax overhaul or something, because we generally see the public says, maybe not. So that's incremental change. The formula's right, and now over the years in the future we'll fund the formula.
And if I'm understanding correctly, if we hand this to a legislator, then they're looking at how much each system is getting, and they're looking at what the total amount that system is getting based on everything. And if they're thinking that total amount is the amount of increase, that's the incorrect thinking.
That's right. It's about 2/3 is new. About 1/3 is just money that's been shifted from.
Okay.
2/3, 1/3 is not exact, but that's pretty close. It's about 1/3 existing money that's just gotten shifted to new line items, and about 2/3 new money. So you see that first line item on page 1, their total is about 1.5 million. About 500, 5 to 550 is existing money. So they're getting about $1 million more than they would have gotten otherwise.
And that will be the confusing part to folks that don't realize that.
Yes.
You mentioned earlier that
I can ask it that
at-risk money was put into poverty.
Yes.
Is that what you said?
So the at-risk money, the at-risk is confusing because there are 3 at-risk state line items. There were 3, there are now 2, 1.5. So one of them was completely abolished, and that's the money that you've heard of. You're going to get calls from high school principals that say, I can no longer have an alternative school because I paid for alternative school with at-risk funds and now it's gone. Look, 20 years ago when I was a local superintendent, we paid for alternative school with those at-risk funds. Most of our schools use the at-risk line item for alternative school. It's zeroed out. It no longer exists. But the money's been moved to the poverty line item. But again, that's why I'm talking about expectations. So they can still use that money for their at-risk, for their high school alternative program, but I don't want somebody to think there's still money to pay for the alternative school and there's new money. The money that you were using for alternative school has been shifted to the new line item. And if you still want to have an alternative school, then you're going to have to take it out of that line item or find another way to pay for it. It's not new money. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I don't want to be negative. I just want to be clear.
Yes. So how does this impact maybe nonprofits that have applied for?
Good question.
I've got
Yeah.
calls about that. How does,
So we have a lot of community agencies, Boys and Girls Clubs, YMCA's, they're over, that get at-risk money. And they're all wanting to know. So there's a chance that there's going to be some shaving because there's just not as much money. So they completely eliminated, the legislature completely eliminated one of our 3 at-risk. Remember I just said, I'm always speaking tongue in cheek, I said we got 1.5. So they took one of them completely away. But then another one was greatly reduced. And it's the one that nonprofits are used to getting grants for. And that's one reason I've been getting calls, why have we not sent out grant applications for 26? Well, it's because we're still trying to figure out if there are buckets where we can scrape and put more money together. But essentially, those nonprofits, your Boys and Girls Club, YMCA's and all that have counted on state funding, a lot of them are going to be reduced because the legislature cut that funding and we can't do anything about it. There's not funding there, there's not funding there. Some of them we want to be cautious. So my first year as state superintendent, we got a huge reduction in that line item. And one of the most difficult things to this day that I've had to do, you, Dr. Richardson knows, because she had to take some of the calls for me, God bless you. But every one of those nonprofits got a 20% cut and some got 30% cut that year. There was nothing we could do about it. The money was just not there. And I went across the street and begged and pleaded to get the number back up so we could just level fund people where they had been. And they did, but now they've shaved it again. And so, that, and I'm telling you, I've had some nightmares about it because that was I think to this day, the hardest thing I've done to cut all these nonprofits by 20% when they're kind of counting on the money. But the good thing is we're talking about FY26. And we're going to get some information out to them by the end of the summer so they can start planning their budget for next year. So they don't go hire a bunch of people and then have to lay them off or find out that so they'll know ahead of time. But the short answer, Dr. Chesson, is there's probably going to be reductions. Not probably. I'm trying to be sugarcoat. There are going to be reductions.
FY26 starts in October this year.
October, yes, sir.
Okay. So you're talking about, it's not far away, it's the functional year.
But the majority of that money is spent on summer programming. It's another reason I'm caveating this because, remember, that's another area we've been advocating for, and the legislature actually gave us a huge increase for summer programming. So we'll be able to go to some of those nonprofits and say, okay, watch. Where do you spend your money? Well, we spend 90% of the money you give us on summer programming. Well, you know what? We're going to have to cut you 40%. But here's another application, apply for summer funding, and we might be able to make the whole thing up. So that's why I don't want anybody who's listening out there in the nonprofit world to go cry or lay off all your employees. We're trying to work through that, but it won't be one for one because some of them use it for other things that we don't have additional funding for. So that's why it's not this time going to be what it was 8 years ago, Dr. Richardson, where we just 20% across the board, everybody gets a reduction. Some will get a reduction of 20%. Some may get no reduction because we're able to braid some other funds. We're just going to have to kind of work through it. But it is going to be a reset moment. It will not be the old business as normal.
Well, hopefully they'll, giving them this type of notice, they will have some time to make up in their own fundraising. And with the folks that support their organization, and maybe even their national organizations can come in, like with Boys and Girls Club. I know they're a very important after-school partner across District 2.
Yes,
so I'm hopeful that they will be able to reach out to the nationals and folks that support them to help supplement.
And so we're planning by August to get something to all these folks. So they'll, and again, their budget year, this doesn't start to October 1, so that'll give them at least a couple of months. Most of them are seeing it. That's why you may be getting some calls. That's why I'm getting some calls, because they've seen enough in the news to know that something's going on here. Good question. So I promised it wouldn't be 3 hours. There are a couple of other bills I want to mention. The Parental Leave Act, you passed the rule, the emergency rule for this morning, the permanent rule. It's just know that that is still moving forward. We're getting a lot of questions from superintendents and CFOs, but feel pretty good about implementation of that. The biggest issue now is banking, and banking is allowed to a point. Now, by banking, I mean this. I say this with no aspersions toward anyone, but let's say you have a baby on July the 10th, and school starts back August 10th, and so there's a month in between. The way the law is written, you get your 8 weeks anytime in the next 365 days. So those 4 weeks do not count against you. It's not like there are 4 weeks in the summer and then you get 4 weeks of leave once school just starts back. So you can take the whole 8 weeks anytime in the next 365 days. So a lot of people have said, well, you know, the first quarter, we're not going to have all these, the same cost as if you multiplied it out by 12 months, because people who have babies in the summer won't get the leave. Well, maybe we'll get the babies in the summer, we'll get the leave. They just they'll be able to bank it for the school year.
So if your baby's born at the end of the year, you have to take it next year too?
You could take, that's right, you could have a baby born May 15th, and you have 365 days to use the leave. So you could take, say, a week of leave in May, and then your other 7 weeks in the fall. The employee must present a plan to the local superintendent, and the plan must be approved. So, for instance, and I'm not saying, I got in trouble last time. I get in trouble every month just talking to you. I should quit talking. I'm not saying anybody has proposed doing this, but the question came up, what if somebody's plan was, I want every Friday off, you know, for the next... Well, you can't, well, if I'm a local superintendent, I'm turning that down. The purpose of the bill is to allow moms and dads sometimes to adjust to a new baby or adoption and to bond. And obviously, taking every Friday off doesn't meet that need, and so I'm going to turn that down as a local superintendent. This did not come as a question from a teacher. This came as a question from one of the school districts. Just a what if, which is fine.
What's the appeal process?
So,
is there an appeal process if the superintendent turns it down?
there is not an appeals process at the local level. It's the superintendent's discretion. So those will kind of work through, but we've got some panicky people out there because they have babies that are due on July 2nd or 3rd or 4th, and they kind of want to know, you know, what's it's going to look like for them. I'll talk extensively with superintendents about that on Wednesday. We have already sent out some things to them. Now that you've adopted the emergency rule, we'll be able to send more correspondence to them that's already in development that will go out at the end of the month. And so we'll, I think June 23rd, we're going to send some things to them that'll be more specific. But there is no end to the FAQs. So there are going to be more questions that we will have to answer throughout the year. And if you get questions, if you'll send them to us. The Focus Act is a cell phone act. We're getting a lot of questions about that. Again, I'll spend a lot of time with superintendents on this. But essentially, you can't have a smartphone with you during the school day. You've heard questions about what is a locker. We are working on what is a locker. We're going to answer that question because it says your phone has to be like in a locker. But that is not going to be interpreted as to mean an old-fashioned locker on the wall because we don't even, a lot of schools don't have those anymore. It has to be locked up somewhere, okay? So in other words, me just putting it in my pocket is not going to meet the law. Now, locked in one of those little pouches that you've all seen advertised, the vendor of which I'm not going to name, but you know, something like that works. It has to be, I can't just say, it's not I don't have it anymore because I put it in my pocket. But we'll work through those questions with superintendents and principals, and this one's going to be It's gonna be something.
Someone
Talked to all
put
those students yesterday, this was number one question, and a student asked me, these are great high school students, but he said, there is a group of students, I'm not a part of, the students not part of it, who are saying they're just gonna protest the law, and they're gonna disobey. What's gonna happen to them? I said, what happens to you if you disobey school rules now?
Same thing.
There are rules, nobody's gonna cut your hand off, but there are gonna be consequences for not following the law. And, that's okay. It's good to ask questions.
Dr. Mack.
We've had students that didn't follow board policy for a long time.
That's right.
Yes, sir.
No, I defer to Ms. Van.
Thank you. I heard you say smartphone. So if I have a telephone that only makes a call, no voice, no anything.
I should not have said smartphone.
There you go.
Electronic device. Pagers included.
Apple Watch.
I said something about pagers to those students yesterday, and then I had to diverge and talk about what a pager is. Yes, sir.
Are our school superintendents going to have to define what they're doing? I have one superintendent who thinks she's going to let them come in a backpack.
They have to have a policy. They have to have a
And
policy.
they have, and you're going to review those policies. I know we said last year, but this is more stringent.
Yeah, they have to have a policy. School Board Association's already done a good job. They've sent out model policy already. They have, I think it is going to be on your agenda next week.
Yes, sir.
And then I'll talk about it a little bit Sunday morning, but yes, there'll be. And it has to be a district policy, obviously. The school board has to adopt a policy. Yes.
Good luck to us.
There are two, I promise I'm getting close to the end. There are two bills that you're going to get some questions about. Maybe one's called Move On When Ready and one's the REACH Act. They both have to do with our interaction with the two-year college system, community colleges. They're not going to be large populations. So Move On When Ready is designed, it's two-year and four-year colleges. Move On When Ready basically says that if a student gets to some age, 15, 16 years old, and they are really super motivated and super smart, and they just want to, skip the rest of high school and go straight to college, they can do that. There's never actually been a prohibition against it, but the legislature has proactively addressed that and said you can do that. Obviously, now you're talking about a student who's 15 or 16 years old who meets all the requirements to go to college, and the college is willing to take them, and they're willing to get out of high school because they're not a high school student anymore. This is not dual enrollment. They do the Move On When Ready, they're done. There's no prom. There's no coming back to play on the golf team. They are finished with high school and have moved to college. And they will not count as a dropout or a non-graduate, even though they actually technically didn't graduate high school because they never completed the diploma requirements, but they will not count as a non-graduate.
They won't be in the cohort.
That's right. So I've been asked, if all these kids just at 16 decide to go to college, what are we going to do? Well, there's not going to be a lot of it. There's going to be some, and there have always been some, but that's going to be a very small number of students. If it ends up being larger than I predict, we'll deal with it, but I think that'll be a small group. The REACH Act is kind of the exact opposite end of the spectrum. These are students who let's just say it, they're destined to be school dropouts. And they want to just go on to junior college. If they are 18 years old, now they have to be 18, so in their senior year basically, if they are about to drop out of high school and not graduate, but they can go get in a technical program in a junior college, then they can go ahead and enroll in that program and they will get an alternate diploma. So they will get a high school diploma when they complete their junior college program. So I'm 18, I just hate high school, I'm just going to drop out of this thing, And then my counselor can say, you know what, if you'll go to the junior college and get in a welding program, when you finish that welding program, not only will you have your welding certificate and maybe a 2-year degree, you'll also get a high school diploma. And now see how they're the opposite ends of the spectrum. But again, a good option for some students. Are we going to lose 4,000 kids next year to this? Probably not. But there will be some students that'll be the right path for. And the move on when ready, 18. Move on when ready only applies to, it applies to 2-year and 4-year colleges. The REACH Act is just 2-year colleges, so you have to go to get enrolled in a technical program.
But you've got to complete that
That
program in order to get the high school.
Right. You don't just get your diploma and then go enroll in the program. You have to complete the program and then you come back. You're basically awarded the high school diploma retroactively. Some of you will remember. Some of you are thinking, does that sound familiar? If you were on the board actually in 2016 or 17, you actually have already done this. It's in place. We've had students graduate on it. The board did it completely on the board's prerogative, but it only applied to students who were over age, like 19, is that right? And so the legislation gives us the authority to award it to 18-year-olds, whereas before we could not award an alternate diploma to somebody if they dropped out before they turned 19. So this is actually something the board's already done. There's an outstanding memo out there explaining how to do it, but the age has changed.
But there's no age on move on.
There's no age on move on when ready.
Okay.
I guess I'm thinking from a principal's perspective, how would that impact their funding the following year? If it's based on student enrollment?
So REACH Act will not affect their funding because they can't leave high school till they're 18 and they already should be counted. But there might be some, if somebody turned 18, in September and they're not there for the count in the fall, I guess it could affect it. Now move on when ready. If that student leaves at 15, then they're not going to be on, they're gone. They're no longer in school. It's just like they moved to the state of Maine, so you'll no longer get funding for them.
But they also
for the next year. But you also won't have them.
Right, and you won't have, I would think superintendents would be pleased that they're not counted as a dropout.
That's
which
right.
has been a complaint for years.
Yes, ma'am.
That they're penalized.
That's right. That's exactly right. And that is one of the reasons but for both these acts, principals talking about students counting as a dropout, but I don't have any say-so over that. That's one of the reasons these two acts came about. The Choose Act, I have two more. These are just the big ones that I felt like we needed to say something about. So the Choose Act is the School Choice Act. Some of you have asked questions since last month about the pre-funding of Choose. That's a great thing. In my opinion, I was very supportive of it. So what they've said, the legislature passed an amendment to an appropriations bill, or a tax bill, not appropriations, a tax bill at the end of the session, that said starting next year they're going to go ahead and take money, I can't remember how much, I had it in my head, $150 million maybe? But off of the top of the tax revenues before they're deposited in the Education Trust Fund. Why is that good for us? By pre-funding it, the higher ed has to take a third cut of it also. So if they wait till the money's in the trust fund and then they do it, then the Choose Act, which are the private school vouchers, private homeschool vouchers, they count 100% against K-12 side of the split. But by pre-funding it, before the tax deposits are made, it comes off the top. So essentially a third of the cost is coming out of higher ed's bucket, and I was thrilled with that.
It's $100 million by June 1, 2026 for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2027, and then annually afterwards it'll be 150.
Okay, so $100 million this first year, and then $150 after that. So it may take more than that to fund the whole thing, but at least that much will come off the top and not, and it won't count against the split.
Do we have any idea how many current public school students will participate?
We do have that actually, and I will have to send it to you, but so that number for this coming fall, we know how many students signed up for Choose, how many of them are in private school already, how many are homeschool, and how many are public school students that are either going to private school or homeschool. I don't remember it off the top of my head. It's not the majority. The majority were people already in private schools, but I can get it to you.
That approved, those that were approved already know that.
Yes, sir. They know.
Because there were more, I mean, I had data about how many people had applied, but I didn't know.
Well, there was a fear that there would, one of the reasons they're pre-funding it, they're not pre-funding it because I never requested it, by the way, but again, we got something out of the pre-funding, so I'm very happy with it. But there was a concern that next year there might be more people apply for the scholarships and qualify, than there was scholarship money available. And the legislature didn't want to deny scholarships, so that's why the $100 million's there. And it'll but the first year it is pretty close to fully funded. It definitely is with the extra money they're going to take out, but because see that money can be used through this next school year. But essentially everybody who applied, who qualified. Now some people applied for scholarship, but they didn't qualify for it. If you applied and qualified, then you did
qualify because of the income level.
Mostly because of income
cap, which goes up next year, doesn't it?
Does not go up automatically. The income cap is at 300% of federal poverty.
Okay.
It stays that for 3 years, and then the legislature will make a decision about what it is after 3 years. But right now, it's in place for 3 years. The last one on my list is paperwork reduction. Lord, I wish they'd reduce mine. But so there's going to be a standing committee to work on basically the paperwork that teachers have to do, and we are going to run that committee. You are going to be appointing people to the committee, but you can't just go pick who you want because the legislature laid out a pretty stringent process about application and review. Dr. Shields back there already has the application done. We are working on that now. So in July, you will have probably like 4 to 6 people for your district, and you're going to choose who on that list serves on the committee. Each of you will get to appoint a teacher, and then we will have and there's a lot, I mean, it's very stipulations. We have to have teachers among all sorts of grade levels, geographic representation, which is why we're using board districts. The interest, I mean, there's going to be about 15 people on the committee, and there are about 30 different interests that have to be represented. So we're going to have to be looking for like an art teacher who's also 3rd grade. But she's doing that, and we'll get you a list of people. Because that law takes effect like right away, it's going to be more concise the first year. They serve 2-year terms. By the time the second appointment round comes around, then we'll have a school year where we can send things out in our newsletters, like Dr. Busman was talking about it all, and we'll be able to get a wider pool. But in the first year, we won't be able to because we've got to have the appointments to. The way it says is the department has to develop an application protocol, which we're doing. Then I have to go through that and pick out who from the applicants I recommend to you, and then you have to appoint from my recommendations. Technically, I could just recommend each of you one person, and you'd have only one choice. But I've asked Dr. Shields to try to get us, at least 3, 4, 5, 6 people per each board member, and you can kind of look. But like we can't have all high school or all middle school. It's going to be very complex, very difficult. But we'll have them to you. And then the committee will start meeting, and they'll meet quarterly, mostly by Zoom meetings. But then in 2 years, we'll have a different application process. Like Dr. Bozeman was talking about, he sends out a regular newsletter. We send out newsletters in all of our sections, and we can use those newsletters to identify people. So what we're really looking at now are like folks who've been state, or not just state, like the district teachers of the year. So we know there's 16 of those every year. We know we have a whole group of Milken educators that they still meet. We have all their email addresses. People who've served on courses of study. So we have a pretty big database of folks we can get to in the summer, but obviously it's not everybody. And there also there's a principal, one principal on it. There's some other categories too. It's going to be a good thing because it'll help us get down to the classroom level and say, if you're a 4th grade art teacher, are there data collection paper, we're talking about paperwork reduction, not computer, but there's pieces of paper that you're having to handle that don't make sense, and if so, then we take those to the whole committee. What are they? Is this an issue that's only happening in one county, or is this an issue that's happening across the state? And then we will come back to you multiple times a year with a report from the committee saying, here's a piece of paper that the board's been asking us to do this since 1972, and we don't think we need to be filling these papers out anymore. Can we either digitize it or retire it? And so you'll start seeing those reports in 2026. But anyway, just know that's coming next month.
Can you give us an example of the paperwork to be reduced?
No, ma'am. I can't, because I will be honest, I'm a little hesitant that we will identify much paperwork that can be reduced, because essentially we can't reduce any federal paperwork. The legislature made that clear. The biggest complaint we get about paperwork is federal. It's all federal. I mean, I can't tell you that I've had one complaint in 7.5 years about a piece of paperwork the state actually required. And everything else has been federal. And federal we can't. But at least we'll have a list of it. We'll still know, and we can talk to our congressman about, this is stuff that you're requiring us to collect that's, difficult. But things like there's a lot of federal ones. State, but there may be some out there. But I don't know that there are. I'm afraid that what will happen is the committee's going to get together and realize that there's just not a lot left that can be either digitized or removed. But I could be wrong. So
I just can't think of any.
I couldn't either, but we'll see.
The latest amount of what they call paperwork is not paperwork, deals with the literacy and the math act, but that's required.
Those are required by law. So, so we'll see. Yes, sir.
Going to backtrack a little bit. Ms. West mentioned or alluded, I think, to something that we were talking about, the scores, 3rd grade reading scores, I think. And I was looking over some numbers from a county in my district.
Yeah.
The schools, 2 different city school systems, are 3 miles apart, maybe. There's a 14 percentage point difference in the score. Of course, and you may have alluded about attendance, but are we ever comparing or trying to correlate attendance with scores? I mean, if you don't go to class, you can't take advantage of all the programs and projects and whatever. But are we comparing, are our investments paying off because they're good investments, or are they not paying off because we don't have kids attending class? Are we looking at that attendance factor?
We are, and that's actually something in our Power School, we did call it Unified Insights. It's something else now. They changed the names. You know what it's called? Still Unified Insights? Okay. Thought they changed it. We have basically, we talked about AI earlier. It's pretty well AI powered analysis system. So we can go in pretty quickly in the district level, it's even easier. Superintendent or their curriculum person can go in and look at which students, they have every student's score. Not just reading, we're looking at reading today. They also, very soon, will have their ELA, English Language Arts, their math, their science, and they'll have their attendance, they'll have their discipline record, they have their medical record, they have their IEP if they're in special education. They have all that in one database. And they can pretty quickly run analyses and see which things are contributing. So all these students who are below grade level, is it attendance? Do they all fall in one teacher's classroom? I hate to say that, but they can look at that. Now, can we do that at the state level? Technically we could, but it's obviously when you get the more classrooms you're looking at, the more students, it's much more complicated to do that. Plus, we don't directly touch students each and every day. So one of the things we're doing through our curriculum and instruction regional meetings is training them on how to do that. I will tell you, obviously, I've flagged, I know the district you're talking about, they're on my list of flags, like why are they significantly lower than their neighbors? We have some counties where, we have some counties that may have 5 school districts in the county, and maybe 4 of those school districts are all in the 90 to 95% range, and one's at 77. Well, why? Well, there may be a good reason why, but somebody needs to ask the question why, and then have the conversation with that superintendent. And that's what we're doing.
Do we do that? Does the state
Absolutely.
do that?
Yes, sir. That's what we're doing. That's where our ARI folks, they're meeting with those principals and superintendents and central office coordinators. Here's your data. We got to talk about it and where it is. And sometimes those discussions, they lead to personnel questions about, well, who's the reading coach in that school? Now, I want to be careful that you can have a school that has very low reading performance. They may have the best reading coach in the world because it's a very difficult population, and they've put their very best person in there to work on that. So I don't want to say, I don't want anybody to think that I would say, just because your reading scores are low, you don't have a good reading coach. But you do have to think, is that the right person in there? If they've, say, been there 3 or 4 years and you haven't seen any change, well, is that the best match for them, or is there a different place?
Is that sort of introspection totally up to the superintendent of that system? Or is it, you could have a superintendent who is really focused on performance and trying to get the best results, and you could have another superintendent who doesn't care. Is there any standard of evaluation or performance? Or
should not let medical doctors on this board. Let's talk about that in the future. No. So here's where you're going, Dr. Long.
We look for bad doctors, by the way.
The answer.
They have to take a different test. We don't.
So we force the conversations, but the final decision's up to that superintendent. So if we go in and we look at the school's data and we talk to them and we send our specialist in, and we can identify, and I can tell you it's happened, where we identified and said, your problem is you got a weak principal in that school. But in the end, we can't move that principal because they don't work for us. We can't change teachers, reading coaches, and all that is a local decision, local school board decision.
Board needs to be sitting around the table, and that local board needs to be calling the superintendent to account.
Does that local board look at these numbers that we have available?
It should be, and I don't want to call on Ada Catherine, but they do that in their training.
Yes, sir.
Every year, local boards have to do training, and they talk about how to analyze these data and how to look at them, and you should be, don't you? That's
yes, sir. That's right.
And that's exactly where I'm going, Dr. Long. I'm seeing the same issues of not performing where the expectations are.
Right.
And so we've had enough time now with this new policy that the local boards need to be having these hard conversations, and we have to be pressing it from our side of the table because we're failing the children if we don't.
It's a hard pressed to make. Maybe it's a hard, don't know how you exactly hold people accountable, but whatever we can do as a state organization, the state board, I would hope we would hold people accountable to taking care of the kids in their district as far as the standards, you know. And if we have teachers that aren't quite up to the task, then we need to do some remedial stuff.
And we look at our folks too, because remember, we're not organized by your districts. We're organized by those regional in-service districts. And we look at basically our districts. Are there certain districts that are performing better than others? And why is that? Who are our professionals in there? I obviously won't get with a lot of people, so I'm not pointing anybody out. But at the end of last school year, we let some people go. So we said, it's not working. The work we've assigned you to do as a regional specialist, your schools are not getting there, and so we're going to put somebody else in. Now that's not, we're just not going to cut people loose on one piece of data, but we did it last school year. We invited people to not come back to work. So, it's,
That's why we're increasing, that's the reference Dr. Long, we wrestle with how we progress the test score. And we gave them a break longer than some of us want to, but we're going to increase the level of requirement to be proficient. And that's going to even broaden the gap, in my estimation, more.
And last year, you'll remember, and I know Dr. Long and Ms. Mooney weren't with us last year, but the others of you remember that I had a chart in July, and they may have one this year, but I may not. But we had a dozen districts that showed 20% growth in 1 year, and that told me, and I bragged on that, because what that said was, when it came time, they thought, oh yeah, we got to get serious about this. But every one of them was very high poverty. I think they were all majority minority districts. None of them were wealthy districts, high wealth districts, either their families or their school system. And they got the work done. So it's been demonstrated that folks in very poor communities can get it done. Now we're going to look at that this year. I'm not expecting, I actually would think something was wrong if every year you got 20% bumps. Last year was the first year the retention law went into place, and I think that shook some things up. So we wouldn't expect that this year, but we would expect some districts to show this kind of remarkable, we're there, this kind of remarkable growth. And there are some districts that I kind of expected this year to make the growth, and they didn't hit the targets that in my mind they should have hit. So we're working with them, we're following up with them and having some hard conversations. But again, in the end, their local school board's making those decisions, and we'll work with them. Yes.
One thing I was thinking about, one variable we've got to consider very seriously and intentionally. A lot of these districts don't have teachers that are certified. We know there's a shortage.
Yeah.
So we have to keep in mind, even though we have people there, I know some of my districts this year are running into people that they hired, perhaps provisionally, to get certified, that now they're letting go. So it's a broader picture than saying we have a praxis exam and we're trying to increase the score. We can do that. However, you have to keep in mind, we may not have those people there who are certified because there's a shortage, not just in Alabama, nationally, of teachers.
I was not referencing the practice.
No, I'm saying this. I make a mistake, but I just happen to be looking at you. I'm sorry.
So I have to point out,
Don't look at them.
as you may know, for 4 years or so, 5 years, we've had a very small line item for a teacher recruitment campaign, which was very successful for a while. We had a lot of legal problems with it. For 2 years, we didn't have it because of its contractual RFP problems. And we finally, after 3 goes this year, got an RFP that the state comptroller's office approved, and that contract's moving forward. We have a new vendor, and I'm very excited. We've met with them twice, and the contract review committee denied the contract because they're not convinced there are any schools that have a teacher shortage.
Oh.
And
we show them numbers.
So we're providing them the numbers. We're providing them the numbers. They can only hold it for 45 days, and then it'll be released, and we'll be on it. But I point that out because Dr. Richardson, nobody was being, I don't think anybody was being difficult for a reason.
No.
Like they, in their community, they're not hearing that there's a teacher shortage anymore, and so they assume there are no teacher shortages.
Right.
And Tina went back and said, "Oh yeah, we've actually solved the teacher shortage in many districts,
but some don't
through a lot of great policy
That's
work.
correct.
But we still got a teacher shortage."
Yes.
And so we can't. They said, "Well, show us," and we've already sent them the data, and we're moving it. But that's why, these things don't stop. They're constant.
It's shortage and retention.
Correct.
Yeah, shortage and
That's it.
retention of teachers.
Yeah, because in some areas they'll go and teach for a while, but they don't want to stay there.
Yeah, recruitment and retention. Yeah.
To go from one system to another.
Well, I appreciate y'all letting me stand up and talk through this stuff.
You're
It's
lucky. Thank you.
one of the best things, most fun things I do.
Any other questions? Now, we're just getting started. I do want to say, encourage everyone to be on the lookout for an email from Attorney Swan. We talked a couple of months ago about process and procedures for the superintendent candidate negotiation, and so you should receive a draft in the upcoming days. We recognize that more than likely in the future we'll have totally new administration that may impact this draft, but we did want to follow through and send that to you, so be on the lookout for that. Any other questions? If not, this meeting is adjourned.
I'm gonna we'll kind of run. I think I've got to do a public TV thing. I just fold.